Chapter 139. Mei Yu came to Suichuan Academy High School. After Mei Yu and Luvia met up, there was also a pair on the field of the high school. Wu Ming stood on a building in the Suichuan Academy High School and looked at Ilya and Rin Enbin in the middle of the field. I see. Ilya has also become the new owner of the Starry Magic Staff. It suits this girl quite well. Wu Ming smiled. Wu Ming watched with interest as Ilya received the order to go to the toilet. With a flash of light in the toilet, Ilya walked out wearing a pink magical girl outfit. She was wearing a pink blouse and a mini skirt, pink and white boots, and a small cloak on her back that looked like a pair of small wings. Her hair was tied up with 2 bunny ears, and she held a red wand in her hand. Why did you go to the toilet to transform? Rin Enbin, who was standing on the field, asked in confusion.
Because I'm very shy.
Ilya said weakly. How can that be? Ilya-chan, magical girls are for people to look at, magical aunties like Miss Rin will be teased. The magic staff in Ilya's hand made a frivolous sound.
Wu Ming heard it with his extraordinary hearing.
As expected, only this shameless Ruby would say that. What are you talking about? Ruby! Rin Enbin was like an evil spirit. His eyes were red, and his back turned black as he looked at the ruby in Ilya's hand. Aya, let's get down to business. The ruby began to change the topic. Humph. If it wasn't for business today, you'd be in trouble. Rin Enbin snorted coldly, then looked at Ilya. Get ready, Ilya. What? Ilya was confused. Instantly, a large magic circle appeared under Ilya and Rin Enbin's feet. The magic circle kept spinning, complex and ever-changing, like a flower that kept blooming and withering. What is this?
Ilya asked in a somewhat panicked manner.
Don't worry, this is just a passage to the mirror world, Rin Enbin explained. Passage. Ilya hugged the ruby and asked in confusion. Add imaginary number axis to the 5th variable. Prepare for the reversal. Multiple spaces confirmed. The central coordinate has been fixed. Form a reflection route with a radius of 2 meters. The realm corridor's partial reversal has begun. Next, we'll go to the world where the cards exist, Rin Enbin said in an experienced tone. A world where cards exist? Ilya was even more puzzled. Yes, connected to an infinite number of mirrors. If this world is one of the mirror images, then this is the mirror world. That's the world where the rank cards are, the mirror world. To put it simply, it's the world inside the mirror. Rin Enosaka explained. In an instant, the scene before Ilya changed. The originally quiet and uninhabited campus became somewhat strange at this moment. There were still a lot of glass-like fragments floating in the sky. The coordinates are stable. The space movement is complete. Ruby, who was being hugged by Ilya, twisted her body rather humanly and said to Ilya, This is the mirror world? Ilya looked around in a daze. Ilya! They're coming! Rin Enbin shouted. What? What's coming? Ilya said in a panic. Then, in the middle of the field, Ilya saw an extremely strange scene. In the middle of the field, a cluster of black mist condensed and formed a black sludge that resembled a black hole. An arm reached out from the black sludge, just like in a horror movie. What is this? Ilya was a bit scared. Don't be scared, Ilya. This is the heroic spirit of the rank card, Rin Enbin said. Heroic spirit? What's that? As an elementary school student, Ilya didn't know about heroic spirits. They are heroes in human history. After they died, they became legendary existences, Rin Enbin said. The power of the rank card is provided by heroic spirits. If you want to obtain the rank card, you must first defeat the heroic spirit's power within the rank card, which is the incarnation of the heroic spirit. Do we have to fight? Ilya was a bit confused. Of course. Didn't I tell you? Rin Enbin said awkwardly. Of course not. Ilya was a bit hysterical. Let's not talk about this for now. It's coming. After hearing Rin Enbin's words, Ilya looked toward the middle of the field. A woman with a good figure, wearing a black half-exposed leather jacket and a black eye mask, stood there. Ugh! A zombie-like sound came from the woman's body. She raised her head. The gem on the eye mask was like an eyeball, emitting a strange red light. So scary. Ilya was scared. After all, 2 days ago, Ilya was just an elementary school student. Even if it was a weakened version of a heroic spirit, it wasn't something an elementary school student could defeat. Do your best, Ilya. Ilya heard Rin Enbin's encouragement, but this voice seemed to be a bit far away.
Ilya helplessly looked at Rin Enbin, who was hiding far away.
Ilya, get out of the way! Ruby shouted. Ilya subconsciously dodged to the side, and a short sword connected to a chain stabbed into her original spot. Attack, Ilya, Ruby said.
What should I do?
Ilya asked with a trembling voice. Imagine a powerful attack, Ruby said. Ilya was still a little scared. She closed her eyes and waved Ruby. A slash that tore through the atmosphere flew toward the dark servant. Boom! The sound of a hit was heard. Ilya opened her eyes and looked at it in disbelief. Oh, that's amazing, Ilya. You actually released a powerful slash. Is that so? Seems like it's effective. Ilya said weakly. Wu-Ming stood on the roof of the mirror world. As soon as Ilya and Rin Enbin entered the mirror world, Wu-Ming followed closely behind. With his powerful strength and the Hero King's rank card, no one discovered Wu-Ming's trace. Looking at the immature Ilya, who could even be said to be a complete novice, Wu-Ming couldn't help but shake his head. Really, Ilya is still too inexperienced. It's too dangerous to let Ilya, who has no combat experience, participate, Wu-Ming said.
But it's about time.
Wu-Ming smiled. Because the opponent dodged the attack, Ilya began to use a reduced power scatter shot. Then the opponent began to use a noble artifact.
Ilya, leave quickly. The opponent is about to use a noble artifact, Rin Enbin shouted from behind.
Just as Rin Enbin stood in front of Ilya and activated a defensive magic, a petite figure walked out of the shadows. Rank card Lancer, including Gaybalg, Piercing Thorn Spear. Chapter 140.
Gaybalg.
Meiyu used the Sapphire and the Lancer class card to transform her Scarlet Spear into a spear and stabbed forward with all her might. The spear pierced through the Dark Follower's chest. The scarlet magic circle in front of the Dark Rider shattered and disappeared. The Dark Rider spat out a mouthful of blood, and his figure slowly faded. After he disappeared, a card appeared in his place. Meiyu picked up Rider's card, and the Gaybalg disappeared and turned into a sapphire staff. Beauty tour? Ilya said in surprise. Hello, Ilya, Meiyu said calmly. Because they had met before and had been taught by Wu-Ming, although Meiyu didn't treat Ilya too coldly, their relationship could be considered to be very good. They were merely acquaintances. Ilya, is that someone you know? Rin Enbin asked. Yes, she is Big Brother's sister. I have been to Big Brother's house and met his sister. Ilya was hesitant, but she still told Rin Enbin. Oh, suddenly, a strange laughter was heard. Rin Enbin instantly gritted his teeth and said, This voice is Luvia. Rin Enbin looked in the direction of the voice. Luvia walked over very elegantly and looked at Rin Enbin proudly. How is it, Rin Enbin? This time I won first place. Then, Luvia looked at Meiyu. Thank you for your hard work, Meiyu. Meiyu silently handed the class card to Luvia. What a pity, Rin Enbin. I will accept this card. Oh, don't be so proud. Rin Enbin suddenly rushed over and punched Luvia's face. Luvia was sent flying to the ground. Ilya and Meiyu looked at this scene and didn't know what to do. Since you saw it, you should have come to help earlier, you bastard. Rin Enbin clenched his fist and stared at Luvia. Rubbing her face in pain, Luvia crawled up and said, You bastard! To actually do such a thing to a lady's face, I really hate barbarians like you the most. Cut the crap. Isn't that a sneak attack? As they quarreled, the two of them wrestled with each other. Aw, looks like it's developing into something like this, Ruby said helplessly. Speaking of which, what's going on? Ilya's shoulders drooped as she said weakly. At this moment, the mirror world suddenly began to shake. What's wrong? Ilya asked. Because the card was recycled, the mirror world began to collapse, Ruby explained. Then let's hurry back. Ilya was starting to panic. Not bad. It seems Wrath's attacks have become even more exquisite. Luvia panted heavily as she spoke, cutting a sorry figure. As long as I know your attack path, then I can definitely dodge it. Rin Enbin was also panting heavily, and his face was haggard. Aya, looks like it's not going to work. They're already using body language.
Looking at the two of them who were still wrestling with each other, and Ruby who was replying calmly, Ilya was confused.
How can you two still chat so calmly?
At this moment, Mei Yu walked to the center of the three of them.
Sapphire, Mei Yu said.
Yes, master, Sapphire replied.
At the same time, just like before they entered, a large magic circle appeared under their feet. However, unlike Ruby's magic circle, Sapphire's magic circle was bluish-purple. Delete the imaginary axis from the measurement variable, fix the center coordinate, set the radius to 6 meters, form a reflection path. Return to the normal world. Instantly, light enveloped everyone, and then Ilya, Mei Yu, and the others disappeared. Wu Ming watched them disappear and said, "Then let's go, Collis."
Yes, master.
Reality. Shuoyu residence. Wu Ming was sitting in the courtyard, waiting for Mei Yu's return. After a while, Mei Yu walked into Shuoyu residence.
I'm back, Brother Wu Ming, Mei Yu said.
Welcome back. How was it, Mei Yu? Are you all right? Wu Ming smiled warmly.
I'm fine, don't worry, Brother Wu Ming.
Then, Mei Yu seemed to want to say something but stopped. Wu Ming naturally noticed Mei Yu's abnormality.
Do you have anything else to ask, Mei Yu?
Wu Ming stroked Mei Yu's head and said warmly, Brother Wu Ming, what does he think of Ilya? Mei Yu asked. Wu Ming, who was secretly following Mei Yu, naturally knew why Mei Yu asked that. Then he said, Oh, Ilya. She's just an ordinary elementary school student. Is that so?
Mei Yu lowered her head and pondered.
Oh, right. Do you want to go to school, Mei Yu? The next day, Ilya leaned on the table weakly. Oh, I'm so sleepy. At this time, the homeroom teacher, Daigu Fujimura, walked in. Hello, everyone. Although it's a little sudden, a new student transferred in today. Please come in. When he finished speaking, Mei Yu walked to the podium wearing Suechuan Hara Academy's elementary school uniform and holding her handbag. I'm Shitsuki Mei Yu. Please take care of me. Mei Yu bowed. Oh, so cute, how polite. Yes, yes, yes. Many people started discussing.
Ilya raised her head in disbelief and looked at Mei Yu.
WH. What? Daikawa Fujimura wrote Mei Yu's name on the blackboard. Then, he turned around and slapped the table. Mei Yu just came back from abroad. There are many things that she doesn't understand. You have to take care of her.
Yes, the children said in unison.
Let me see. Mei Yu, you can sit behind Ilya.
Yes, sensei.
Mei Yu walked to the table behind Ilya and sat down. Ilya, who was originally very sleepy, was now very careful as if she was sitting on pins and needles. After a while, because Daikawa Fujimura forgot to take the photocopied teaching materials, this lesson was temporarily self-study. Ilya found an excuse and left the classroom. Sigh, Ilya sighed.
Oh, what an old-fashioned plot. Ruby came out of Ilya's hair and stood on Ilya's shoulder.
Ruby put away her staff, leaving only 3 pairs of small wings with curved edges. Yep, a mysterious transfer student has appeared, Ely said weakly. This is something that often appears in magical girl stories. A rather polite and clear voice sounded. Ilya turned around and saw that it was the magic staff that Mei Yu was holding last night. At this moment, just like Ruby, she put away the staff, leaving only the curved edges of the staff with a bow on it. Ah, isn't this Xiao Lan? Ruby greeted her enthusiastically. We haven't seen each other for an entire night, sister. Sister? Ilya exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 141. On the rooftop of the Sui Kun Yuan Academy Primary School, Ilya, Ruby, and Sapphire walked there.
What's the matter with sister?
Ilya asked. It's like this. Little Blue and I were made at the same time. Ruby said. I'm Sapphire. Nice to meet you. Please take care of my sister. Sapphire bowed like a human. Don't mention it. Please take care of me. I'm Ilya. Ilya quickly returned a salute. She's so polite, Ilya thought.
Little Blue, who are you?
Ruby asked. Yes, my new master is Mei Yu, Sama.
Speaking of which, if it weren't for Wu Ming Sama, I might not have been able to conclude a contract with Mayu-sama.
Hey, is it related to Big Brother? Ilya asked.
Yes, after separating from my sister, I was looking for a fated person everywhere. As a result, I found the magic aura left behind by Mayu-sama. Then, I followed it all the way and came to Wuming-sama's house. Ilya and the ruby listened attentively. Wuming-sama's house is a very powerful magic workshop. It would take a long time for me to break the enchantment outside. It was because of Wuming-sama's permission that I entered Shuo Yu's house. After discussing with Mayu-sama, I signed a contract. If that's the case, Big Brother is also a magician. Ilya said with a look of realization. Well, Wuming-sama's magic is quite powerful. I even thought that Mr. Wuming was a servant. When she first saw Wuming, Sapphire was also shocked. Because Wuming didn't deliberately hide his magic and aura, Sapphire easily noticed Wuming's huge magic. In fact, Sapphire wasn't wrong. After Wuming was transformed into a class card, he automatically condensed into a physical body and continued to rely on his own magic. Although he was not the same as a servant, there was no difference. But there was one thing, and that was Wuming had become stronger. That was because the servant was slightly different from the heroic spirits in the class card. Servants would be strengthened or weakened by their own class, master's magic power, region, and other aspects. However, the class card stored the power of the heroic spirit. Although it was also limited by the class and the reputation of the region, it was not affected by the master's magic power. In other words, Wuming, who relied solely on his massive mana, received the greatest boost in all his attributes. Of course, Wuming was just an accident. After all, rank cards were originally provided for human magicians. If they were used by human magicians, all kinds of restrictions would reappear. Even if a class card materialized, it would be an empty shell without consciousness. It would only instinctively attack pure magic blocks in its own territory, absorbing the existence of the underground spirit veins. By the way, is Ilya's big brother the one you went to that night? Ruby asked. Because it was a family freeloading dinner, Ilya did not bring Ruby with her but left her at home. Well, Big Brother's family is very big, just like a noble. Ilya nodded with a different look in her eyes. Hey, I really want to see the big brother that made Ilya infatuated, Ruby began to tease again. What? Of course not. Ilya bashfully patted the ruby, while the ruby nimbly dodged. Ha ha ha, by the way, Little Blue's master, Mayu, is really strong. She can even use the class cards restriction, include. Ruby quickly changed the topic. Yes, I was also very surprised at that time. I didn't expect Mayu-sama's talent to be so high. Well, if she has such a powerful magician brother, it's normal to have such a high talent. But she really deserves to be called Little Blue. She can actually find such a great master, Ruby said so. Using this excuse could also be considered as comforting Ilya. After all, Ilya's performance yesterday was truly too weak. I'm sorry that I'm not such a great master. By the way, what's that restriction include that you guys were talking about? Ilya shrugged, then raised her doubts. Did Big Sister not explain it to Lord Ilya? Sapphire asked with a confused and surprised voice. I forgot. Then, Sapphire told her about the class card. So that's the case. Ilya seemed to have understood something important, and her face was filled with satisfaction. A legendary hero, huh? He seems so powerful. Ilya smiled. Due to some unknown reason, the class cards didn't appear at the same time. After 2 class cards appeared, the Magic Association sent a magician to retrieve those 2 cards. Sapphire continued. Wuming and Zelik had also discussed this problem. It seemed that because of Wuming's unusual class card, it caused the class cards and Mayo's appearance to be chaotic. The class cards are created from extremely advanced magic theories. The Magic Association can only create a restriction, include, for the time being. That's because the Great Master, the person who created me and Big Sister, intervened and changed it to Lord Luvia and Lord Ling. As for us, because the 2 of them didn't cooperate, we left them and went to find our own masters. Really, just a pair of ponytails at an older age is equivalent to a magical girl, Ruby mocked in the end. Then, how many class cards have you collected now? Ilya asked. We've already retrieved Archer, Lancer,
and the rider class card that Meiyu Sama defeated yesterday. We have a total of 3 class cards. Sapphire said. Ilya, do you still remember the archer that Ling showed you? That's a class card. Ruby said. Ilya recalled the card that Ling and Osaka showed her that day. I see. Meiyu Sama used the Lancer class card, the famous weapon of Cuchulain, the son of light in Celtic mythology. It's a magic spear that can definitely hit the heart. Sapphire said. That dangerous? Ilya was surprised. Of course. After all, this is a weapon used by legendary hero. Ruby interjected while floating in the air. At that moment, a voice sounded. Sapphire. Ilya turned to look at the rooftop entrance. Meiyu was standing there in her school uniform. Don't run around. I'm worried. Meiyu said. Because Meiyu had been taken care of by Wu Ming's exclusive magic attire, Emerald, Meiyu was very concerned about Sapphire. I'm sorry, Meiyu-sama. Sapphire hurriedly flew over. At that moment, Meiyu looked at Ilya, and Ilya looked at Meiyu. Both sides fell into silence. Chapter 142. Hello, I'm Ilya, Ilya said shyly. Yes, I'm Meiyu. Then, as the school bell rang, the two hurriedly left the rooftop. Then, Meiyu showed genius-like talent in mathematics, art, home economics, sports, and other aspects. This shocked the group of primary school students and teachers, and even the homeroom teacher, Daikawa Fujimura, went crazy. In the evening, Ilya sat on a small chair in the park with a defeated expression. I say, it's about time. Do you need to keep being so depressed? Ruby said. Sai, you're right. It's not a big deal. I just didn't expect geniuses to really exist. Ilya sighed and said. Then, Ilya got up and was about to leave. Just as she turned her head, she saw Meiyu passing by the park and Wu Ming who came to pick her up. Big brother and Meiyu. Ilya was a little nervous. Yo, Ilya, why are you alone in the park? Wu Ming greeted Ilya. Meiyu nodded at Ilya and did not say anything. It's nothing. I'm going home now. Ilya touched her head with a blush. She could not say that she was sitting here to relax because of the blow. Then, do you want me to send you home? Wu Ming said gently. Then I'll have to trouble you, brother Wu Ming. Ilya smiled shyly. Then, Wu Ming held Meiyu's hand and walked on the road with Ilya beside him. As if she could not bear it any more, Ilya spoke. Big brother, are you also a magician? Ilya asked carefully. Wu Ming smiled at this. I'm really sorry. I didn't expect Ilya to be related to magic, so I didn't tell you my identity back then. Wu Ming's apology made Ilya even more embarrassed. She hurriedly waved her hand. No, I'm the one who's sorry for prying into other people's privacy. Ruby, who couldn't bear to watch any longer, patted Ilya's head and said resentfully. Why are you apologizing? Ilya blushed and didn't know what to say. Ha, it's okay, Ilya. Inquiring about such things in the magic world isn't considered invading one's privacy. You can barely be considered half a magician now. Wu Ming smiled and patted Ilya's head. Why is it half? Ilya asked in confusion. That's because Ilya is a magical girl. How could she be a magician? Ruby cheered. Shut up. Ilya angrily grabbed the ruby and stuffed it into her school bag. She then looked at Wu Ming with a red face. Wu Ming continued. The reason why I said that Ilya is half a magician is because Ilya has just come into contact with magic. There are many things that she doesn't understand. Ilya nodded her little head. She didn't even know about heroic spirits yesterday. If Sapphire didn't explain it to her today, Ilya might not even know about it now. To be honest, it's best for Ilya to be a magical girl. Wu Ming's tone began to change. How should she say it? In short, it gave Ilya a feeling of joy. How should I say it, Ilya? It's best for you to leave the magic world after you finish reclaiming your rank cards. Then, you can peacefully be a primary school student. After all, the magic world has darkness that you can't imagine, Wu Ming said earnestly. Just as Ilya was stunned by Wu Ming's words, Wu Ming's tone changed. Well, however, even if you continue to choose this path, I will still protect you. Wu Ming's tone was unusually gentle as he stroked Ilya's head. These gentle words and gentle strokes caused Ilya's face to turn red. She looked at Wuming foolishly as if she had fallen into some fantasy. What's wrong, Ilya? Are you all right? Wuming pinched Ilya's little face and asked worriedly. No, I'm fine. Ilya quickly reacted. Her face was red as she waved her hands frantically. We should hurry up and leave. Sarah will be worried, Ilya said. Then, Ilya strode in front. After sending Ilya home, Wuming held Mayo's hand and walked on the road. Does Brother Wuming like Ilya fair? Mayu suddenly asked. Why do you ask? Wuming looked at Mayu and asked in confusion. Because Brother Wuming is very concerned about Ilya fair. Mayu was silent for a while before speaking. Wuming smiled and stroked Mayo's head. Our Mayu can't be envious, right? Mayo's face turned red. She shook her head and said, I'm not. However, no matter how one looked at it, she seemed a little arrogant. That's because Ilya gives me a feeling like Mayu, Wuming said seriously. This time, Mayu was confused. My feeling? Looking at the familiar surroundings, Wuming nodded at Mayu. That's right, Mayu. Ilya gives me a feeling like you. Both are holy grails. Mayo's eyes focused. Wuming continued, I once sensed a strange magic power in Ilya's body. I secretly checked Ilya's body and found that there was a seal deep in Ilya's body. Wuming walked to the door of Shua Yu's residence, pushed open the door, and walked in with Mayu. Because I once thought of sealing your holy grail physique, I studied this seal. Wuming sat on the stone bench in the courtyard and let Mayu sit beside him. So, it's not that there's no holy grail war in this world, but that someone stopped the holy grail war from happening. So, Brother Wuming is concerned about Ilya fair out of sympathy? Mayu said. How can that be? Wuming shook his head with a smile. That's because Ilya is also a cute child. I like children the most. Just like how I like you, Mayu, it's not because you're holy grails that I care about you, but because I simply like humans, like you cute children. Then, Wuming walked to Mayu and squatted down. So, I didn't choose to take care of you out of sympathy or other reasons, but because we met. Wuming stroked Mayo's head and looked at her eyes that were the same color as his. It's because of such a simple geographical reason that you became my sister and my beloved. Although Wuming's words made Mayu blush, Mayu still listened to Wuming very seriously. How about maintaining a good relationship with Ilya? Looking at Wuming's smiling face, Mayu blushed and nodded. Okay, I'm going to cook. What does Mayu want to eat? Wuming stood up and said. Omelette rice. Mayu said in a low voice. Then make a deluxe special version. Mayu looked at Wuming's back and smiled in a daze. Brother Wuming. Chapter 143. After dinner, Mayu, dressed in a blue-purple magical girl outfit, went to Wuming who was admiring the moon. Are you going, Mayu? Wuming said with his eyes closed while drinking a cup of tea. Although Mayu was a little curious why Brother Wuming closed his eyes while admiring the moon, Mayu nodded. Well, Sister Livia said that we will meet near the Winterwood City Bridge tonight. Well, be careful, that class card is a bit tricky. Wuming opened his eyes and looked at Mayu. Well, I know, Brother Wuming. Mayu left the Shuasuki house, and Wuming, who was sitting on the edge of the house, stood up. Are you worried about Miss Mayu, Master? Collis Balit on Wuming's head said. Well, that's for sure. You know, now the two mirror realms near the Winterwood City Bridge have been merged, and one of them is a caster class card. Now, Caster should have built a magic workshop. Although not everyone's magic workshop was as crazy as Wuming's magic workshop, he was still able to betray the witch of a Kanzaki. Just the fact that he was a Kanzaki character was something that couldn't be ignored. Collis still doesn't understand why you want to put the caster class card back in place. Even if it's for training, I don't think Miss Mayu and Miss Ilya have the strength to defeat the other side. Golden Green's dragon horn glowed, and it kept making sounds. Because of this I have to ensure their safety, and I have to do it without the other side knowing. Wuming walked out of the Shuasuki house, set up a magic barrier, and headed toward the Winterwood City Bridge. You know, I can't stay in this world all the time. I'll let them get some growth so that I can rest assured. Collis didn't speak, but Collis always felt that Wuming said to let Mayu grow, but in fact, he was more flustered than anyone else. Master, there seems to be a professional term for what you said. I remember it's called tsundere. Wuming, who was walking on the road, slipped and almost fell. Wuming stabilized his body and stroked the dragon horn headdress. This information is wrong. Delete it. Yes, Master. Winterwood City Bridge, Rin Enbin and Luvia stood somewhere, waiting for the arrival of Ilya and Mei Yu. A pink figure came over. Big Sister Ling. Big Sister Luvia. Ilya came over and greeted the two. You're here, Ilya, Rin Enbin replied. That's strange. Why is Mei Yu late? You should know that Mei Yu is very punctual. Luvia, who had more or less understood Mei Yu after interacting with her, was a little worried. At this moment, a petite figure came over. Sorry, I'm late, Mei Yu said while panting. Because she wanted to spend more time with her brother, Mei Yu realized that there wasn't enough time, so she hurried over. It's fine, it's not time yet. Luvia looked at the time and said to Mei Yu. Don't be careless, Ilya. Be on guard against both the enemy and Luvia. Rin Enbin said to Luvia. Ilya had a helpless expression. I really hope that you won't provoke us when you quarrel, Ruby said. Mei Yu, hurry up and deal with it. Remember to involve Rin Enbin while dealing with the enemy, Luvia said elegantly. Apart from the latter half, I understand the rest, Mei Yu said helplessly. Then, I think we should hurry up and retrieve the 4th class card, Rin Enbin said as he looked at Ilya and Ruby. Mei Yu. Luvia also looked at Mei Yu and Sapphire. Yes, I understand. Okay. As Ruby and Sapphire chanted an incantation, a magic circle appeared under their feet again. Connect. Following Ilya and Mio's final words, they instantly disappeared from where they stood. Wuming came here and sensed the remnants of magic in the air. You've already entered? Then let's go in. Call us. Yes, Master. Remember to use the invisibility spell. Don't let them see me. Yes, Master. With a flash of light, Wu Ming also disappeared from where he was. About a dozen seconds later, Ilya, Mei Yu, and the others who had disappeared earlier reappeared on the spot. They all looked battered and exhausted. It hurts and it's so hot, what is that? Ilya said in shock. It's really bad. We seem to have encountered Castor who has been prepared for a long time. Luvia wiped her face with a handkerchief and said, Castor. A magician? Ilya sighed. Yes, there is no doubt that the opponent is a powerful magician. Ruby also sighed. According to the magic circle and incantation used by the opponent, it can be determined that it is not any kind of magic that exists in modern times. It can be determined that the opponent is using the long-lost kamikaze magic. Sapphire analyzed. That's not the worst. The main thing is that there is a large range of mana-pointing control platform around Castor, so our attacks can't hit her. Rin Enbin pinched his chin and said in distress. I wanted to ask just now, what is that mana-pointing control platform? This kind of new term was somewhat unfamiliar to Ilya, who had just stepped into the world of magicians. That is a defensive platform that can direct the flow of magic. Generally speaking, this kind of control platform is placed in a special place. I didn't expect that the opponent can make such a large piece. Rin Enbin said. According to our judgment, the opponent's mana-pointing control platform can only defend downward. That is to say, as long as we fly into the air, we can attack her. Sapphire said. But this made Rin Enbin and Luvia somewhat distressed. But it is really difficult to let Ilya and Mei Yu suddenly learn flying magic that they have never learned before. Is that so? Ilya's voice came from behind the two. They saw Ilya floating in the air, looking at the two with some excitement. What's going on? Ilya, how did you suddenly learn how to fly? Rin Enbin said. Amazing. Ilya, you actually learned a difficult flying magic in an instant. Ruby said happily. Hey. Don't magical girls know how to fly? Ilya tilted her head and said innocently. Rin and Osaka, on the other hand, was shocked by Ilya's words. Damn it, Mei Yu, you also fly immediately. Luvia said, not to be outdone. After a moment of silence, Mei Yu said such a sentence. Humans can't fly. Just like Tu was shocked, Luvia was also shocked. Wuming, who had quietly come out, hid behind a tree and looked helplessly at the calm Mei Yu. As expected of Mei Yu, you actually think the same as me. Wu-Ming smiled awkwardly. Chapter 144. In the middle of the night, Mei Yu returned to the Shuayu residence. Did something happen, Mei Yu? Wu-Ming stood at the door and said to Mei Yu, who was in a sorry state. Mei Yu nodded, looking a little depressed. Wu-Ming walked to Mei Yu, touched her head, and said, "It's okay, Big Brother is here. If you have any difficulties, Big Brother will help you solve them." Looking at Wu-Ming's smiling face, Mei Yu also recovered some of her spirit, and then said, "Brother Wu-Ming, can you teach me how to fly?" "Of course, how about this, tomorrow morning, I'll take you to learn how to fly. How about it?" Out of trust in her brother, Mei Yu quickly nodded. After Mei Yu took a bath, because Wu-Ming saw Mei Yu's disappointment, under Wu-Ming's care, Mei Yu fell asleep. Wu-Ming left the room and gently closed the door. "Are you really going to teach Miss Mei Yu how to fly, Master?" Collis complained. After all, although Wu-Ming's talent is high, after all, the magic that Wu-Ming knows is some high-level magic. Thinking back to when Wu-Ming taught Gilgamesh, he guided and taught him, letting him awaken magic abilities on his own. It's not that he was unwilling to give the original 18 Lune to Gilgamesh, but Gilgamesh refused at that time. Wu-Ming's face turned red, and he coughed awkwardly, then said, "Ahem, there are many ways to let Mei Yu fly, but now is a good time to train Mei Yu. After all, Mei Yu can be said to be a genius no matter what she does." "Are you saying that because Miss Mei Yu lost to Miss Ilya in flying magic, so she suffered a blow?" Collis asked. Wu-Ming walked to the bedroom, pushed the door open and continued, "It's not considered a blow. After all, Mei Yu is a strong child. She just can't find a clue now and is confused. Mei Yu's strength is not like that of an ordinary little girl. Although Wu-Ming's teaching in the past 5 years is also crucial, Mei Yu's strong character is cultivated by herself. In order not to drag my brothers down. This is what Mei Yu once said. How should I say it? Mei Yu is a little too much of a believer in science, causing some magic that requires imagination to be unable to be implemented. Just like flying, if a person subconsciously feels that they can't fly, then no matter what, they can't succeed." "Then what do you mean?" Collis asked. "Let Mei Yu change to a way that she can accept. Anyway, Mei Yu's purpose is just to stay in the air." "I see." Wu-Ming lay down and put Collis on the table. "Actually, Collis, you don't have to compliment me in disguise." Collis did not speak. "I don't believe that the purely auxiliary magic gift made by Gemwold Zelik doesn't have extraordinary wisdom." Wu-Ming smiled. "Don't think that I'm quite smart usually, in fact, I'm very afraid of using my brain." "I know, although I said that I treat you as family, you must not be able to let it go." Collis was silent. Suddenly being told that you have a fixed master, suddenly being told that you can't change your master, suddenly being told that you must obey your master's orders, suddenly being told that your freedom is forever limited. Wu-Ming's tone began to become heavy. "That must be quite painful." Collis continued to be silent. "So, if you can, please treat me as a real family. Okay, Collis?" Wu-Ming's tone changed, and said tenderly, "I know, Master." Collis replied, "Then, I'll trouble you a lot in the future, Collis." "Yes." Collis's voice contained unprecedented emotion. If Collis was only loyal to her master like a counselor before, then now she was treating him like family. If there was a gap between Wu-Ming and Collis before, then there was no gap between Collis and Wu-Ming now, just like Wu-Ming and Mei Yu. It was both warm and comforting. After Wu-Ming fell asleep, the golden dragon horn shone with a different light. Is this the feeling of love? The next day, both Wu-Ming and Mei Yu woke up early. After eating the breakfast prepared by Wu-Ming, Wu-Ming brought Mei Yu to a barren land on Yuanzong Mountain through a portal. "Let's do it here, Mei Yu." Wu-Ming took a few steps forward and said, "Okay." At this moment, Mei Yu had already changed into a magical girl's clothes. For some reason, Mei Yu was unwilling to transform in front of Wu-Ming, just like how Ilya did not want to transform in front of others. It was just that Mei Yu was targeting Wu-Ming alone. Then, Wu-Ming tossed a pendant necklace to Mei Yu. It was a pendant with a single feather in the shape of a pendant. "Brother Wu-Ming, what's this?" Mei Yu looked at Wu-Ming in confusion. Wu-Ming said, "This is a magic tool that allows the wearer to fly. As long as the incantation is chanted, the necklace will allow the wearer to fly for an unlimited amount of time."
Unlimited?
Meiyu was shocked. I'm afraid this tool can only be created with a magical domain.
Meiyu grabbed Sapphire and analyzed.
The point is, as long as you wear this necklace, Meiyu, you don't need to learn to fly. These words made Meiyu and Sapphire stunned, but Meiyu reacted and shook her head. Then she said, I don't want to rely on these external forces. I want to learn to fly by myself. Looking at Meiyu's firm eyes, Wuming smiled. I knew you would say that. Then, Wuming began to teach. Meiyu, first of all, you have to know what your ultimate goal is. Wuming rarely showed a serious face and looked at Meiyu seriously. The ultimate goal is to defeat Caster and recover the rank card, Meiyu said. Wuming nodded and continued to ask, why do you want to learn to fly? That's because you can't attack Caster without flying to a high altitude, Meiyu said.
So, why do you have to learn to fly?
Wuming smiled, and his rare serious face was broken.
Hey!
Wuming's words made Meiyu stunned, and then she thought of something, and her face turned red. Brother Wuming, thank you very much. Meiyu bowed excitedly. Wuming knocked Meiyu's little head and smiled. Little fool, we are a family, you don't need to thank me. Meiyu smiled shyly. Then Wuming said, so you should know how to practice. Well, Brother Wuming has helped me a lot. I already know how to achieve the goal of defeating Caster.
Meiyu nodded.
Then I'll go first. Come on, Meiyu. Wuming said and opened the portal. Well, Brother Wuming, goodbye. Meiyu said goodbye to Wuming with a rosy face. I'm really looking forward to it, Meiyu. Chapter 145. The next day at night. Ilya, Meiyu, Rin Enbin, and Luvia stood together near the Winterwood City Bridge. Then, only for today, let's temporarily join forces. Rin Enbin said. Oh, although I don't want to admit it, you monkey can really help a little. Luvia said. The two once again confronted each other. Regarding the argument between the two, Ilya and others expressed that they were not interested. Great, Meiyu, we can fight together. Ilya said to Meiyu.
Yeah.
Meiyu's face was red, and she was a little embarrassed. Yesterday, after Wuming left, when Meiyu was practicing her method, Ilya appeared nearby. Wuming didn't know what happened between the two, but Meiyu was very happy when she came home yesterday. Let's start. With Rin Enbin and Luvia's orders, Ruby and Sapphire jointly launched the magic circle. The red and blue magic circle reflected each other, and the speed was much faster than before. When they escaped from Caster's mirror world, Ruby and Sapphire also jointly cast the magic circle. Otherwise, with the speed of their magic circle, they would have been intercepted by Caster. They disappeared in an instant. Wuming appeared again and looked at the scene of Meiyu and Ilya just now. It seems that Meiyu and Ilya's relationship is good. It should be like this. Meiyu is very lacking in friendship. Wuming said lightly. So, do you still want to enter the mirror world, Master? Collis asked, but she didn't move at all. Don't you know? Why are you still asking me? Wuming laughed. Knowing is knowing. You are still my master after all. Etiquette cannot be neglected. Collis said, and then the golden-green dragon horn moved. Collis, who had untied the knot in her heart, had become the same as Ruby, Sapphire, and other similar creatures. She no longer stubbornly maintained her previous shape and began to change her shape automatically. Let's go. Although I believe that Meiyu and the others can overcome Caster Media, this is the mirror world that is the fusion of two cards.
Yes.
Subsequently, light flashed beneath Wuming's feet as a magic array appeared and enveloped Wuming. Inside Caster's mirror world, Meiyu and Ilya flew into the air and kept rushing toward Caster's position in the air. Rin and Osaka and Luvia, who stayed on the ground, could only watch helplessly. After all, not to mention whether their attacks could reach Caster's position or not, their magic might not work on Caster. In the air, Ilya looked at Meiyu curiously. After all, Meiyu was still unable to fly yesterday. She could only rely on magic to compress the pressure in the air to form a temporary stable platform for her to jump, move, and so on. But in Ilya's eyes, Meiyu didn't rely on these methods at the moment, but she was really flying. After dodging a magic cannon, Ilya, who was still in a daze, quickly cleared her mind and began to focus on the situation in front of her. Mei Yu constantly dodged the magic cannons made by Castor and rushed toward Castor's position. Mei Yu looked at the necklace hanging on her neck and remembered what Wu Ming said to Mei Yu last night when he entrusted the necklace to her. After Mei Yu came back from the exercise, Mei Yu rested for a while, and Wu Ming handed it over. Mei Yu, take this. Wu Ming took the single-piece wing-shaped pendant necklace and looked at Mei Yu. Brother Wu Ming, what is this? Mei Yu tilted her head and asked puzzledly. Wu Ming placed the necklace in Mei Yu's hand and said, Tomorrow, we'll have to fight with our lives on the line, so it's best to ensure that we can fly safely. This necklace is only a temporary loan to you, so remember to return it. Mei Yu had already put it on when she came to the Winterwood City Bridge. After all, this was brother's blessing. Mei Yu held the necklace tightly, and then rushed toward Castor even harder. Because the plan was for Ilya to attack and harass Mei Yu, Ilya was very close to Castor at the moment. Looking for the right time, Ilya held the ruby and began to gather magic. Scatter bullets. Fire. With Ilya's clear voice, a large number of pink magic bullets were fired from the top of the ruby. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mei Yu, who was close to Castor, took out Lancer's rank card. Rank card Lancer. Mei Yu, who was about to use Lancer's rank card, found that Castor suddenly disappeared in front of her. Teleportation? Then, Mei Yu quickly activated the defense facility. Sapphire, convert all magic into physical protection and magic barrier. Yes, Master. At the moment when Sapphire completed the defense, as if there was a delay, a huge magic bullet hit Mei Yu, and Mei Yu fell on the Winterwood City Bridge in the Mirror World, forming a lot of smoke. Mei Yu. Ilya, Rin Enbin, Luvia, and the others were shocked. I was really careless. As expected of the Witch of Konagami, teleportation is nothing. Ruby was distressed. Then, Mei Yu walked out of the smoke. Mei Yu's body was not damaged at all. Her body exuded a little light, which was a sign that the defense facility was activated. Looking at the unscathed Mei Yu, Ilya and the others were relieved, and then Ilya rushed up again, acting as a bait. Mei Yu, on the other hand, was glad that he remembered what Wu Ming said yesterday. Mei Yu, you have to remember, the opponent is a magician of Konagami. She may have super high-level magic like teleportation, so you must be very careful. Wu Ming was worried that Mei Yu would underestimate the enemy. Although it was a little strange why there was a delay, Mei Yu didn't have time to think about it. Looking at Ilya, who was still trying to harass Mei Yu shook her head and quickly joined the battlefield. Wu Ming, who was in the shadow side, as expected of Mei Yu, she reacted in an instant. Collis complained, Isn't it because you used magic to interfere with Castor's casting speed? Wu Ming smiled awkwardly, and then said, Even without me, Mei Yu will be fine. Wu Ming was right. Even without Wu Ming's interference, even if the magic cannon hit Mei Yu, it would not cause any damage to Mei Yu, who had already activated her defense. The interference was just a subconscious behavior of Wu Ming because he was worried about Mei Yu. In order to create the conditions for Mei Yu, Ilya poured her fantasy power into the ruby and launched a large AoE scattershot attack. Taking advantage of the moment when Castor was delayed, Mei Yu immediately released the long-prepared bombardment. Maximum bombardment. Fire. A huge beam of light went straight to the ground. Several people were relieved in an instant. Just when several people were about to recover Castor's rank card, Castor, who they thought had been defeated, reappeared in the distant sky. Chapter 146. Looking at the somewhat embarrassed Castor, everyone panicked. Could it be? Did he use spatial teleportation to escape? Rin Enbin exclaimed in shock. Judging from the level of the magic array, the mirror world would definitely be destroyed. When Mei Yu saw that, she immediately rushed toward Castor. Wait! Mei Yu, come back quickly! Luvia shouted. At this moment, Castor was too far away from them. Even Mei Yu, who was the closest to them, couldn't reach Castor before he released the magic array. Damn it, it's too late, Mei Yu said through gritted teeth. Mei Yu, stand on top. Suddenly, Ilya's voice came from behind. Mei Yu turned around and saw a huge pink magic ball. Mei Yu instantly understood Ilya's intention. The instant the mana ball arrived behind her, Mei Yu used her mana to create a platform and stood on it. The force of the magic ball pushed Mei Yu toward Castor. Rank card, Lancer.
Mio held the sapphire in one hand and the rank card in the other hand, and said while combining the two, "Gay Balg." The scarlet spear penetrated the magic circle and penetrated Castor's chest. Mayu stood not far behind Castor and put away her spear. The 3 gigantic magic arrays collapsed, transforming into motes of mana that disappeared. Castor also turned into a Castor class card. Mayu picked up the fallen class card. Sapphire said, "Class card Castor, recycling successful." "Thank you for your hard work, Lady Mayu," Sapphire said with concern. "Yes." Mayu didn't say much and simply nodded. Then, Mayu looked at Ilya who was flying toward her.
"Alicia Field is truly a miraculous person. I've never thought that I could use a magic ball to increase my speed. Mayu, Sama, I think you and Lady Ilya are very compatible. You should contact Lady Ilya more. After all, the two of you are one," Sapphire said. Mayu nodded as if she agreed. At that moment, Rin Enbin and Luvia, who were quarreling again, stopped. "That's strange. Why hasn't the mirror world collapsed after so long?" Rin Enbin asked. Luvia also nodded, and then they looked at each other as if they thought of something. "Could it be?" Ta, ta, ta. There was a sound of steel touching the ground. Somewhere close to Rin Tasaka and Luvia, a servant wrapped in black mana mist walked over.
The black mist made it hard to see her face, but the magic sword in her hand was clearly reflected in the eyes of Rin Enbin and Luvia.
There was no doubt that it was the materialization of Saber's class card. Without any hesitation, Saber raised the sword that had accompanied her for her entire life in a fluid motion.
A large amount of magic gathered, and then Saber swung her sword, and a powerful black magic shockwave shot toward Rin Enbin and Luvia.
"Damn it! It's too late." Just when the two of them were in despair, a white mist appeared and offset the black magic shockwave. Heaven Age, resist God. Following the activation of the relic, the white mist rushed toward Saber.
Saber quickly blocked with her sword, and the white mist turned into a dragon claw and hit it hard.
Boom! Saber was repelled, and then Wuming appeared from the white mist.
Looking at the man with blonde hair and a white robe, the two of them asked,
"Who are you?" Rin Enbin and Luvia asked. After all, they didn't know Wuming. "Zelik told you about me, right?"
Wuming turned his head and looked at the two of them with his golden pupils and said.
The two of them quickly reacted. "Are you the hero spirit that Master said will help us?" Rin Enbin exclaimed. "But, why did you only appear now?" Luvia said with some suspicion.
The two of them had been in Winterwood City for almost 4 days, but Wuming never contacted them, so it was inevitable that they would be suspected.
"That's because I don't have to come out at all, but the current situation is not something you can handle, so I came out. After all, Zelik only asked Wuming to take care of the magician who came to collect the class card, not to help them all the time." With that said, Rin Enbin and Luvia felt relieved. Zelik did say that the hero spirit in Winterwood City wouldn't help them all the time and would only take care of them a little.
In addition, the two of them were people who didn't like to admit defeat, which was why Rin Enbin and Luvia didn't directly look for Wuming when they came to Winterwood City.
"All right, the current enemy isn't something you can handle. Leave the rest to me." Wuming wasn't bragging. If Ruby and Sapphire were still in the hands of Rin Enbin and Luvia, they might be able to contend with Saber. But now, Ruby and Sapphire had recognized Ilya and Mayu as their masters. With Ilya and Mayu's current strength, they were far from being able to deal with Saber. After all, she was someone Wuming knew. No, it should be said that Wuming taught her before.
Wuming looked at Saber who walked out of the smoke unscathed, and said lightly, "I actually want to fight you."
"I don't know if this is a curse, Artoria."
As if Saber heard him, her figure paused for a moment, and then continued to walk toward Wuming.
After all, the servant transformed by the class card only had instincts and didn't have the slightest consciousness. Being able to pause for a moment was considered as being affected by the subconscious mind. And Wuming didn't treat Saber as the real Artoria. She was just a magical amalgamation with Artoria's appearance and ability. Saber raised the blackened holy sword in her hand and pointed it at Wuming. Wuming also took out the holy lance, mythical Yggdrasil. Since magic reduces the damage of the class card transformed into a servant, then let's directly determine the winner with brute force. Finished speaking, Wuming rushed up with a vigorous stride. Saber didn't want to be outdone and followed up with her sword. Bang!
Bang, bang, bang. The sound of weapons colliding with each other was constantly heard. Wuming and Saber kept changing their positions. In order to avoid affecting Rin Enbin and Luvia behind him, Wuming deliberately led Saber away from here and to the river. On the shore, Rin and Osaka and Luvia fell silent as they watched the chaotic battle between the two of them. Indeed, Saber's ability was not something that the two of them could defeat. Not to mention, magic would reduce the damage of Saber, who had magic skills, even more. At this time, Mei Yu and Ilya, who were attracted by the fire, landed on the ground. Brother Wuming. Chapter 147. Brother Wuming? Mei Yu was surprised. Why is Big Brother here? Ilya asked in confusion. Do you know this heroic spirit? Rin Enbin asked in surprise. What the hell is going on here? Luvia was confused as well. That's Mayo's older brother. He stayed at our house for a while, Ilya said. He's Mayo's older brother? Rin Enbin and Luvia asked in confusion. Rin Enbin found it strange that the big brother Ilya always talked about was actually a heroic spirit. Luvia also found it strange that Mayo's older brother was a heroic spirit. Speaking of which, was the heroic spirit's daily life so unbelievable? Although his hair color is different from the usual Big Brother, this is indeed Big Brother, Ilya said. Although Ilya had never seen Wuming in this form, she knew that Wuming wasn't an ordinary person. However, she was still worried about Wuming. After all, from what she knew, Wuming was only a mysterious magician. That's incredible. Mayo's older brother is actually a heroic spirit, Rin Enbin said while rubbing his chin. Big Brother is a heroic spirit? Ilya asked. It seems like Ilya doesn't know anything. Rin Enbin and Luvia thought. Everyone looked at Mei Yu, but Mei Yu didn't say anything. She only watched the battle between Wuming and Saber. Then Ilya said, Then, Sister Rin, aren't we going to help Big Brother? Rin Enbin said, How can we help? That's a battle between superior heroic spirits. Even if you have the protection of Ruby and Sapphire, you'll only be heavily injured if you get involved. Rin Enbin's expression was grave. Based on the battle between the two heroic spirits, Rin Enbin, who had some martial arts experience, clearly sensed that both sides weren't simple heroic spirits. Even Luvia had noticed that both sides were not simple. Rin Enbin is right. All we can do now is watch from the sidelines and pray that Mayo's brother can defeat his opponent, Luvia said. Afterward, Ilya stopped talking and watched the battle between Wuming and Saber worriedly with everyone else. Right at that moment, the two of them separated and stood facing each other. Saber raised her black long sword, and a black light began to gather around the blade. Could that be a relic? Rin Enbin panicked. Quick! Mei Yu, Ilya, we feel like we're far away from here, Luvia said to the two magical girls who were still watching the battle. Is that a precious artifact? Ilya said. That's right, Ilya. Through the detection of the magic power in the atmosphere, Saber's noble artifact has at least reached the A rank. It can instantly break through Mai and Xiao Lan's defense. In order to avoid being affected, I feel that it's better for us to quickly leave. It was rare for Ruby to become serious. From this, it could be seen how powerful Saber's noble artifact was. Mei Yu, Sama, let's quickly leave too. If we stay here, we'll just be a burden to my brother, Sapphire said. Because she met Wuming every day, Sapphire had a good impression of Wuming. Afterward, Wuming requested her to call him her brother. I understand, Mei Yu said. At that moment, Wuming's voice was heard. She's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. The four of them quickly ran into the distance. The scene changed. On the other side, it was the battle between Wuming and Saber. As it was on the surface of the lake, their battle did not cause much damage to the surroundings. With a feint, Wuming used a Loon rune to avoid water and stood on the surface of the water, looking at Saber. As expected of the best Saber class, plus it's because of you, she's even more difficult to deal with. Wuming said. Due to the ample supply of mana, the underground spiritual vein, Saber continued to release mana, and the black mana mist continued to accompany Saber. Even in close combat, Wuming could only have a slight advantage. At that moment, Saber, who agreed with Wuming's words, raised her holy sword,
and the light of darkness began to gather. Sure enough, noble artifact is the key to victory. Then, Wu-Ming waved his hand and shouted at Mei Yu and the others standing on the shore. She's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. Rin and Osaka and Luvia, who had already seen it, began to pull Ilya and Mei Yu away. After seeing that there were no signs of life around, Wu-Ming also directly activated his noble artifact. My Yggdrasil! The white holy spear turned into a liquid, wrapped Wu-Ming's right hand, and formed a metal-colored arm guard. Wu-Ming's right hand was attached to the water, and a huge amount of mana began to gather around him, and then, it exploded in an instant. It seemed like a long time had passed, but in fact, only a few breaths passed, and Saber's black holy sword also gathered the light. Excalibur, Excalibur. Saber's demonic words came out of her mouth, accompanied by a huge black light curtain. In contrast, the huge holy tree was growing wildly. The holy tree's branches frantically emerged from the water, constantly hitting the black light curtain. The black light curtain constantly destroyed the vines and branches, and rushed toward Wu-Ming's location. Mei Yu and the others, who had almost retreated to a safe area, looked at the huge vines behind them colliding with the black light curtain, and couldn't help but worry. The black light curtain was gradually approaching Wu-Ming. Even if the vines grew quite fast, it seemed a little difficult in front of the black light curtain. However, Wu-Ming would not confront the holy sword head-on. A large number of vines emerged from the water around Saber in an instant, and in just an instant, they broke through Saber's magical fog and entangled Saber. As if it lost its source, the black light curtain instantly shattered, and countless huge vines rushed toward Saber's direction. In an instant, the river in Winterwood City was covered by green vines. After noticing that Saber had become a class card, Wu-Ming stood up. Sure enough, even if it has Artoria's power, it's still just a mana block. Just like Wu-Ming, at this moment, Wu-Ming's body was also made of class cards, but Wu-Ming had consciousness. This was the difference between Wu-Ming and other servants formed by class cards. Controlling the vines to move Saber's class card back, Wu-Ming held it in his hand. Wu-Ming walked to the shore, looked at Mei Yu and the others coming toward him, smiled and waved. Looking at the few people who wanted to say something, Wu-Ming said directly, "Anyway, let's get out of here first." Then Collis, who was on top of Wu-Ming's head, said, "Magic circle, open." With simple words, a huge magic circle appeared under Wu-Ming's and the others' feet, and with a flash of light, they disappeared from the mirror world. Chapter 148. After the mirror world collapsed, Wu-Ming and the others appeared near the Winterwood City Bridge in the outside world. It's amazing. When did the master make magic attire again? Ruby looked at the golden-green dragon horn on Wu-Ming's head and asked. Sorry, unknown kindred, Big Sister was a little rude. Sapphire bowed and said apologetically. Golden Green flew down from Wu-Ming's head and said to the two wands, It's okay, my name is Golden Green, Collis Bell. It's a support magic attire specially made by Master Zelik for Master, please take care of me. Then the dragon horn on the head made a human-like bow. So it's Goldie, I'm Ruby. This is my sister Sapphire, Cephia, please take care of me. Ruby said. Big Sister has troubled you, please take care of me. Sapphire said. Taking advantage of the three artificial elves' conversation, Wu-Ming also began to talk. Mei Yu looked at Wu-Ming with a puzzled expression and said, Why is Brother Wu-Ming here? Looking at Mei Yu's puzzled expression, Wu-Ming touched Mei Yu's head. Just think of me as a stupid big brother who wants you to grow but is worried about you. Sorry. Mei Yu. Wu-Ming said apologetically. No, Brother Wu-Ming, you don't have to apologize. If it wasn't for you this time, we might have all been killed in the mirror world. Mei Yu shook her head and said. Mei Yu didn't mean to blame Wu-Ming. Rather, Mei Yu was secretly happy. Wu-Ming worried about her meant that Wu-Ming cared about her, which made Mei Yu happy. That, big brother. What about me? Ilya asked weakly with a red face. Wu-Ming smiled and patted Ilya's head. Of course I care about you too. Ilya and Mei Yu are my younger sisters. How can an elder brother not care for his younger sisters? Wu-Ming's words made Ilya somewhat happy, and she smiled sweetly. Speaking of which, Rin and Osaka said, that class card hasn't been assigned yet. Rin Enbin looked at Wu-Ming with a fawning expression. Humph. You barbaric monkey. Why would the Honorable Lord Heroic Spirit give you a class card? Luvia taunted. Damn it! Can't you just keep your mouth shut? Haven't you been tired enough from this battle? Rin Enbin glared at Luvia, his face filled with displeasure. Both Ilya and Mei Yu had helpless expressions. After all, neither of them would have any objections if the class card was given to Ilya or Mei Yu. Compared to Rin Enbin and Luvia, who didn't like each other, Ilya and Mei Yu's relationship was quite good. Wu Ming then remembered that he still had the class card in his hand. Wu Ming looked at the saber class card, then at Rin Enbin and Luvia, then at Ilya and Mei Yu. Then, Wu Ming made a decision. Then let's use the simplest rock-paper-scissors game to decide who to give this class card to. Huh! Rin Enbin let out a strange cry. Luvia also frowned. It seemed that the two of them couldn't accept this method. I think this method is not bad. Ilya touched her small face and looked at Rin Enbin and Luvia cautiously. In the end, Rin Enbin and Luvia sighed and sent out Ilya and Mei Yu to decide the winner of the class card. It was a best-of-3 game. In the end, under Rin Enbin's smug expression and Luvia's resentful expression, Ilya defeated Mei Yu with a score of 3-2 and received the saber class card. Ilya carefully put away the job class card. No matter what, this class card was given to her by her big brother. She had to keep it well. Although she didn't care who the class card belonged to, seeing Ilya's happy expression after receiving the class card, Mei Yu was a bit jealous. At this time, Wu Ming patted Mei Yu's head and said, "When we go back, I'll make you omelette rice," Wu Ming's gentle voice sounded. Mei Yu blushed and nodded. Although we still have a lot of questions, it's already very late. Let's wait until tomorrow to ask, Rin Enbin said. A wise decision. Then, come to my house tomorrow, Wu Ming said. After discussing, Rin Enbin and Luvia left first. Wu Ming, Mei Yu, and Ilya stayed behind. That was what Rin Enbin and Luvia said. Aren't you Ilya's big brother? Then, I'll have to trouble you to send her home. You're Mei Yu's big brother. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Remember to send Mei Yu home safely. Wu Ming felt helpless, but he didn't dislike it. As Tuskahar said, she didn't dislike straightforward people, and Wu Ming was the same. The fact that they could treat him with a normal attitude after knowing that he was a servant of a hero spirit's clone was enough to show their temperament. Wu Ming recalled Collis and put Collis back on Wu Ming's head. The ruby and sapphire returned to Ilya and Mei Yu's hands. Let's go, Ilya. Mei Yu and I will send you home. Wu Ming held Mei Yu and Ilya's hands and began to walk toward Ilya's house. Wu Ming didn't like to use the portal anymore. Now, he liked to walk and enjoy everything around him. Unless there was an emergency or something important, Wu Ming wouldn't open the portal. On the way, Ilya carefully held Wu Ming's hand. I feel that Big Brother is warmer than Big Brother's hand. Ilya couldn't help but compare Shiro Amiya and Wu Ming and put the scales on Wu Ming's side. Wu Ming, who didn't have the ability to read minds, naturally didn't know what Ilya was thinking. However, that didn't prevent Wu Ming from seeing Ilya's restraint. Then Wu Ming spoke. Ilya, how do you feel today? What do you mean, how do I feel? Ilya reacted and asked in a panic. Wu Ming smiled lightly. The cooperation with Mei Yu, the blow that killed Castor, was quite good. Speaking of this matter, Mei Yu reacted. Mei Yu asked, why did Ilya choose that way? Then Ilya smiled and said, because I believe in Mei Yu. Mei Yu froze for a moment, then her face turned red. You guys still have a lot of difficulties to go through. You should know that we've only recovered 5 class cards. What's left is the most secretive assassin class card and the most violent berserker. Don't be careless. Silent reminded. Big Brother is right. Sapphire said, today if it weren't for Big Brother here, we would probably all be killed in the mirror world. Huh, it's really lucky. Speaking of which, Mei Yu's brother is really strong. He can even defeat Saber. Ruby flew beside Wu Ming and said, it can only be said that the other party only has a mana block. It doesn't take much effort to deal with this kind of thing. If it really is a servant, the outcome is not certain. Wu Ming explained. Speaking of which, Ilya began to ask, where did Big Brother and Mei Yu live before? When this sentence came out, Mei Yu's expression became nostalgic. Chapter 149. After Ilya said those words, the atmosphere changed. How should she put it? The atmosphere at the scene gave Ilya the feeling that she had said something wrong. At that moment Wuming said, "Ilya, I won't answer this question. If there's a chance, you don't need to know this now." Aha. Aha. Ilya nodded as if she understood. After sending Ilya home, in order to avoid being discovered by her family, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. Then, after saying goodbye to Ilya, Wuming directly brought Mei Yu back to the Shuayu mansion through the teleportation door. Seeing that Mei Yu was not calm, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. "It's okay, Mei Yu. I'll take care of everything." Wuming comforted Mei Yu. "No, brother Wuming, let us take care of it together. I have the ability now." Mei Yu looked at Wuming with a determined face. Wuming was stunned, then smiled. Stroking Mei Yu's head, Wuming said, "I know. Go to sleep first. Collect the class cards first, then think about other things. After that, I'll collect the class cards with you." Mei Yu nodded obediently. After Mei Yu fell asleep, Wuming came out of the house. Then, "Master, are you going to collect the class cards?" Collis asked as the golden-green dragon horn flashed. "There are only 2 class cards left. Apart from Assassin Mei Yu and Ilya, they can't deal with Berserker." Wuming continued, "They were almost wiped out when facing Saber, not to mention Berserker who sacrificed his rationality greatly increased." "Then, do you need to train Mei Yu and Ilya?" Collis asked. Wuming thought for a moment, then said, "You can do a small amount of training first, and then do a large amount of special training after you collect all the rank cards." "Yes, Master." Wuming sat in the courtyard, looked at the moon, and fell into deep thought. The next day, after Wuming sent Mei Yu to school, Wuming took advantage of the time when he was back and went to a coffee shop. Walking into the coffee shop, Wuming ordered a cup of coffee. As if he was waiting for someone, Wuming sat down and drank leisurely. A moment later, Rin Enbin ran in, panting. Rin and Osaka ordered a cup of coffee and sat down. "Phew. I'm not late, am I?" Rin Enbin said. Because he ran over, his face was very red. Wuming shook his head and smiled. "It doesn't matter if I'm late. After all, I have plenty of time." At this time, Luvia casually walked into the coffee shop, elegantly ordered a cup of coffee, walked to Rin Enbin's side, sat down, and drank leisurely. Although the two of them didn't like each other, they were facing a heroic spirit. When they had a common goal, the two of them could still work together. The two of them calmed down and looked at Wuming. "Okay, now it's time to talk about your problem," Rin Enbin said. "I have a rank card," Wuming suddenly said. "What?" Rin Enbin and Luvia exclaimed in shock. The sudden voice caused everyone in the coffee shop to look over. Rin Enbin and Luvia looked at the others with an apologetic smile. Then, Rin Enbin and Luvia calmed down and looked at Wuming again. "You have a rank card? What's going on?" Luvia asked. "Yes, aren't there only 7 rank cards? Now, ley line shows that there are 2 remaining cards that haven't been recycled." Rin Enbin also asked. Wuming calmly took a sip of coffee, then said, "There are more than 7 rank cards, and I have a self-conscious rank card. Before you came to Winterwood City, the previous rank card recycler entered my mirror world and wanted to recycle me, but she didn't succeed. After that, I reached an agreement with Zelik, and I stayed in Winterwood City." Although Wuming said his origin, Wuming hid a lot of things. "So, can you tell us what your rank is?" Rin Enbin asked, but he seemed to be very careful. After all, this was also considered as information gathering. "Caster," Wuming said directly without hesitation. "Caster." Rin Enbin and Luvia repeated in a strange way. Rin Enbin and Luvia thought that Wuming was a lancer. After all, last night, Wuming used a white spear to fight against Saber, who was known as the best rank, and he slightly suppressed Saber. Such an existence turned out to be a caster. "I don't need to hide it from you. The reason why I hid it from the Magic Association is that I hate trouble," Wuming said. Rin Enbin and Luvia weren't stupid enough to ask, "Aren't you afraid that we will spread your existence?" The other party was a heroic spirit's clone servant, and he was also a caster who was good at magic. The two of them didn't think that someone who could fight against Saber didn't know magic. Moreover, the other party was a caster. Maybe his magic was better than his martial arts.
I won't ask about the matter between you and Mei Yu. I just want to know if you can really love Mei Yu. Luvia asked. Wu Ming smiled at this, as if he was ridiculing her, but also as if he was helpless. If even I don't love Mei Yu, then no one in this world will love her. Is that so? I understand. Luvia heard the feelings in Wu Ming's words, which wasn't something that a hypocrite like him could say. Then, Rin Enbin also began to ask, I won't ask about your relationship with Ilya, I just want to know if you will continue to help us recover the rank cards. Rin Enbin said. Of course, the next 2 rank cards are a bit too disadvantageous for you. I will be responsible for assisting you. Wu Ming replied. Indeed, Assassin and Berserker are indeed very disadvantageous for us now. Luvia analyzed. Assassin who specializes in assassination, Berserker who sacrifices his rationality to increase his attributes. Oh, why are these servants so difficult to deal with? Rin Enbin complained. Moreover, the mirror world will shrink due to the continuous recovery of rank cards. If Berserker is the last to be recovered, then the mirror world is likely to become abnormally narrow. If Assassin is the last to be recovered, then it will be advantageous. Then that's it for now. I will find time to train Mei Yu and Ilya. After drinking the last sip of coffee, Wu Ming left the coffee shop. Luvia also finished her coffee, put down the cup, and then very elegantly said to Rin Enbin, Then I will also leave first, Rin Enbin. I don't want to continue to see your face. Rin Enbin angrily looked at Luvia leaving the coffee shop, regardless of the temperature of the coffee, and finished it in one gulp. Humph. Really? Do I like to see your face that much? Rin Enbin said. Waiter, the bill. Rin Enbin said. Hello, this is the bill for the 3 of you, please take a look. The waiter handed a bill to Rin Enbin. Then, Rin Enbin's expression was painful as he paid the bill. Chapter 150. In the afternoon, Wu Ming arrived at the entrance of Sui Kun Garden Academy's primary school and waited quietly. There were parents, older brothers, and sisters all around waiting for school to end. After waiting for a while, the bell rang, and the originally quiet school became lively. Primary school students walked out one after another. After waiting for a while, Mei Yu and Ilya walked out. As Wu Ming had told Mei Yu to bring Ilya over after school, Ilya, who originally wasn't going the same way as Mei Yu, walked together with Mei Yu. Brother Wu Ming, Mei Yu called out to Wu Ming and quickened her pace. Big brother. Ilya waved her hand and also quickened her pace. Mei Yu, Ilya, how was it? Did you have fun today? Wu Ming crouched down and asked the two. Amen. I had a home economics class today. I specially prepared a cake for brother Wu Ming, Mei Yu said as she raised the small box in her hand and showed it to Wu Ming. Then I have to give it a good try. Mei Yu's cooking will definitely be very delicious, Wu Ming said with a smile. Ilya was not to be outdone. She raised the box in her hand and said, I also made it. Although it might not look as good as Mei Yu's, the taste won't be bad either. Seeing Ilya's flushed face due to excitement, Wu Ming and Mei Yu couldn't help but smile. Then Ilya, did you have a good class? Wu Ming asked. Hey, I fell asleep in class today. It was Mei Yu who woke me up. Ilya rubbed her head in embarrassment and said with a smile. Wu Ming stroked Ilya's head and said gently, It's a little too much for Ilya to sleep after midnight. It's normal to sleep during the day, but you can't fall behind in your homework. However, the two of them didn't notice that there were 4 people watching the conversation between Wu Ming, Mei Yu, and Ilya in a corner not far behind them. As expected, Ilya and Mei Yu's abnormal behavior today is because of that handsome guy. A mature girl with green pigtails, Kurahara Narika said. That might be Mei Yu's older brother. I've never heard of Ilya having an older brother like that. Kei Hua, the girl with short black hair, Gue Mimi said. But, there's no way to explain Ilya's abnormality, beautiful. The pink twin-tailed Nana Moriyama squinted her eyes and said. Speaking of which, why are we hiding here? Can't we just go over and say hello? Yu Genza Longzi, the energetic girl with yellow hair and 2 buns, idiot, said. Kurahara Yorihana punched Yu Genza Ryuko. It hurts. What are you doing, Kei Hua? Yu Genza Ryuko said with tears in his eyes as he held his head. You idiot. We're here to follow Ilya and Mei Yu. How can we show ourselves? That's right.
Also, we're following them for Ilya and Mayo's happiness, Nana Moriyama said. However, they didn't know that Wuming had already discovered them. Mayu, Ilya, those over there are your classmates, right? Wuming faintly pointed at the corner where the four of them were hiding. Ilya and Mayu turned to look. As expected, it was their classmates. It's them, Mayu said in surprise. It's Ryuko and the others. Then, Ilya waved her hand and shouted at the people hiding in the corner. Now it was awkward. The three of them walked out in embarrassment. Only Yu Genza Ryuko casually greeted Mayu and Ilya. Yo, Ilya, Mayu. Then, Ilya asked in confusion, what are you doing hiding there? We're. Yu Genza Ryuko was about to tell the truth when Kurihara Yorihana and the others covered his mouth. We're playing a game with others, Nana Moriyama said with a smile. Yes. Playing a game. Playing a game. Kurihara Yorihana and Gue Mimi agreed. Although she was still curious about their behavior, Ilya didn't pursue it too much. As for Mayu, when they were discovered by Wuming, she had already seen through their intentions. By the way, is this Mayo's brother? The gentle Gue Mimi asked. Just as Ilya was about to introduce Wuming, Wuming spoke first. You're Mayu and Ilya's friends, right? I'm Mayo's brother. Shuo Yu Wuming. Thank you for your hard work. If there's anything wrong with my sister, please forgive her, Wuming said with unusual gentleness. So gentle. Kurihara Yorihana, Nana Moriyama, and Gue Mimi exclaimed. So cool. Yu Genza Ryuko said with starry eyes. Only the heavens knew why she thought that the gentle Wuming was cool. Kurihara Yorihana pressed Yu Genza Ryuko down and looked at Wuming apologetically. Are you going home? If you don't mind, let's go together. Wuming's smiling face struck the few of them, causing those who originally wanted to refuse to nod their heads as if they were possessed by gods and gods. Wuming had told Sila in advance yesterday that he wanted to bring Ilya to stay at his house for a night and accompany Mayu. Hence, Ilya, Wuming, and Mayu walked on the road to the Shuayu mansion. Coincidentally, the four of their houses could be reached from this road. Hence, the following situation was created. Wuming held Mayo's hand while Ilya followed beside him. Yu Genza Ryuko and the other three followed behind them. Ilya kept chatting with Wuming. Mayu would say something from time to time. Gradually, the four people behind Wuming stopped talking and looked at the scene. After a few minutes, Nana Moriyama said, By the way, what's the relationship between Ilya and brother Wuming? Ha! My relationship with big brother? The sudden question stunned Ilya. She stopped, and the others also stopped. Wuming replied, Actually, Ilya's adoptive brother Shiro Amiya and I are adoptive brothers. Oh! Isn't that big brother's big brother? Yu Genza Ryuko shouted. He is both Mayo's big brother and Ilya's big brother. What a strange relationship. Kurihara Takika pushed up her glasses and said. It can be considered so. Ilya said somewhat unnaturally. Then, does Ilya like big brother more or big brother's big brother more? Nana Moriyama still had a smile on her face. But Wuming seemed to see the word conspiracy on her face. Ha! Ai. Ilya shouted in panic, her face instantly turning red. You and brother Wuming are so happy. Could it be that Ilya has fallen in love with big brother's big brother and Mayo's big brother? Ilya's face instantly turned red. Her eyes turned into circles and she fainted. Ilya! Everyone's exclamation reached the sky. Chapter 151. After a while, Yu Genza, Zhe Longzi, and the other three left one after another because they had reached a place where they needed to turn. Wuming and Mayu walked on the road, while Ilya was carried on Wuming's back. Her face was red with embarrassment. Previously, Ilya, who had a weak tolerance, had fainted from Nanaro Tortoise Moriyama's words. Wuming had no choice but to carry her on his back. Ruby and Sapphire flew out from Ilya's and Mayo's school bags and floated in the air. I didn't expect Ilya to be so pure. You can't take it after being said a few words? Although love is also a magical girl's right, it's obvious that you're not qualified, Ilya, Ruby said in a strange tone. Ugh. Ilya, who had long since woken up, buried her head on Wuming's back. Ilya, who was already extremely embarrassed, became even more ashamed after hearing Ruby's ridicule. "Please have mercy on your words, sister," Sapphire said from the side. Meiyu suddenly said, "It seems that Ilya likes brother Wuming very much." Looking at Meiyu, who was looking ahead, Wuming used one hand to drag Ilya and freed one hand to casually stroke Meiyu's head. "What, are you jealous?" Wuming teased. "No." Meiyu turned her slightly red face away and said in an unnatural tone. "Is that so? What a pity. I still want to carry you next time." "In that case, forget it," Wuming said with a smile. Meiyu instantly turned her head away and looked at Wuming with her red little face. "Ha ha ha, I'm just kidding. I'll carry you next time." Wuming laughed loudly. Big Brother and Meiyu have such a good relationship. Ilya, who was lying on Wuming and watching the interaction between the siblings, said, "Are you jealous too, Ilya?" Wuming turned to Ilya. That's not it. I was just saying. Magical girls have to face their own hearts, Ilya, Ruby teased again. "You are very annoying, Ruby." Ilya's eyes were filled with tears as she waved her arm, wanting to hit the Ruby. Wuming hurriedly comforted Ilya when he sensed her shaking on his back. Calm down, Ilya." Then, because of Ilya's request, Wuming put her down from his back. Then, as if to eliminate the awkwardness between the two of them, Wuming began to change the topic and began to talk about the two of them today. "As magical girls, the two of you are qualified. However, when facing powerful enemies, the two of you still have flaws," Wuming said. Sensing the change in the atmosphere, Ilya and Meiyu became serious. Especially when encountering unexpected situations, Meiyu's performance is much better than Ilya's. After hearing Wuming's words, Ilya subconsciously lowered her head. Wuming patted Ilya's head comfortingly. But there was nothing that could be done about it. After all, Meiyu came into contact with magic after being adopted by Wuming. After so many years of influence, Meiyu was much more mature than Ilya in all aspects. And Ilya was only a 10-year-old elementary school student. A few days ago, Ilya was even an ordinary person without any foundation or knowledge of magic. Compared to the others, Ilya could be said to have done a great job. But this was far from enough, including Meiyu. "So today, I will give the two of you some training." Wuming looked at the two of them and said solemnly. The two of them also straightened their bodies and looked at Wuming solemnly. At this moment, Wuming brought Ilya and Meiyu to the Shuayu residence. "I've already arranged a virtual space specially used for training. The two of you will be trained by Cullis and me in turn." As if responding to Wuming's words, the dragon horns on Wuming's head appeared and shone. "Please give me your guidance, Ms. Ilya, Ms. Meiyu." "Please give me your guidance, Cullis, Ms. Ilya and Meiyu replied. Then, Wuming opened the door to the virtual space, and a blue space door full of technological feeling appeared at the side. "There's no time to lose. Let's begin." Ilya and Meiyu walked into the space door, and so did Wuming. What entered their eyes was a blue sci-fi virtual space. After entering, Wuming first changed the background of the space to the wilderness. Then, Wuming had Ilya and Meiyu transform. Then he began to teach the two of them. Because you have rubies and sapphires, you don't need to worry about the supply of magic power. Thus, what you need to do is to control the precision of the magic power used when releasing magic bullets. Wuming said in all seriousness. Meiyu is a bit better. As for Ilya, a lot of the magic power consumed when releasing magic bullets is dissipated in the air due to her inproficiency. Ilya and Meiyu were lost in thought as they recalled. So you need to control the output of magic power more precisely, and use less magic power to release more powerful magic bullets. Take Ling and Luvia for example. If the two of them transform, the magic bullets they release will be much more powerful than yours. Then, Wuming concealed the method of controlling magic power for Meiyu and Ilya, and the two of them began to practice. It had to be said that Ilya and Meiyu were extremely talented. In just a few hours, the two of them realized what Wuming said about using less magic power to achieve greater results. Then, let's begin the training of cooperation. After saying that, the colossus above Wuming's head left Wuming and flew into the air. Next, I'll train the two of you. I'll use the virtual enemies in this space to attack the two of you. After saying that, the virtual enemy rider Medusa that Meiyu had killed with Gibalg appeared.
Ilya and Mei Yu were somewhat puzzled as to why Collis would project an enemy that had already been defeated. Don't underestimate Ryder. If it weren't for the fact that she was releasing her noble artifact at that time, Mei Yu wouldn't have had the chance to get close to her. Then, as if responding to Wu Ming's words, Ryder Medusa appeared in front of the two of them but did not attack. Then, the two of them instantly acted as if they were facing a great enemy, and no longer underestimated each other. Wu Ming nodded with a smile and left the virtual space. Before leaving, Wu Ming said to Ilya and Mei Yu, "Do your best. I'll make delicious food and wait for you in the outside world." As if receiving a large number of buffs, Ilya and Mei Yu summoned their fighting spirit. At this age where one was unwilling to admit defeat, even Mei Yu would not surrender to an enemy that she had already defeated. The training began. Wu Ming walked out of the space. Seeing that it was not too late, he began to prepare the food.
Chapter 152. When Wu Ming was almost done with the meal, Mei Yu and Ilya walked out of the virtual space. The two of them were in a sorry state and were panting. Collis flew to Wu Ming's head and said, "Master, the training is complete." "Thank you for your hard work, Collis," Wu Ming said. Then, Wu Ming looked at Ilya and Mei Yu. "How is it? Do you have any thoughts?" After saying that, Ilya said with a mournful expression, "I don't feel good at all. Why is it that after defeating one enemy, several more will appear, and they're all different enemies? There are even monsters that I've never seen before." Hearing Ilya's complaints, Wu Ming smiled awkwardly. Then, Wu Ming quietly asked Collis, "Didn't you lighten the training, Collis?" "I set up the limit training according to Miss Ilya and Miss Mayo's current strength, Master," Collis said calmly. "That's good too. Sweat more during normal times and bleed less during wartime." Then, Wu Ming patted Ilya's head and said, "All right, Ilya, hurry up and clean up your body. I've already made delicious food. If you don't eat it, it'll get cold." That's right, that's right. "Ilya, look at Mei Yu. Why are you still complaining?" Ruby complained.
Ilya looked at Mei Yu, who did not complain, and sighed.
"Mei Yu is really strong. She doesn't miss me at all." Only then did Ilya realize how perfect Mei Yu was. Be it mathematics, art, housekeeping, or sports in school, she was perfect. She was a perfect superhuman. Moreover, she was much more mature and stable in combat than her. Ilya could not help but think that if Big Brother did not appear when Saber appeared, not to mention Mei Yu, she might. No, she would definitely panic. After hearing Ilya's words, Mei Yu shook her head and said, "It's not like that, Ilya. I also envy Ilya. She has an ordinary life and can go to school happily every day. She has friends who care about her. I'm really envious." Seeing Mei Yu like this, Ilya was at a loss.
Then, she reacted and held Mei Yu's hand.
"Mei Yu, you have everything now. You have to be happy." Mei Yu looked at Ilya's smiling face, then looked at Wu Ming who was smiling at him.
The corners of Mei Yu's mouth curled up. Then he nodded heavily.
"Okay. All right, the food is really getting cold," Wu Ming said. Big Brother's delicious food. I'm coming. Wait. Ilya." Seeing Ilya pulling the flustered Mei Yu into the house, Wu Ming helplessly smiled and shook his head. After eating dinner and resting for a while, Wu Ming let Mei Yu and Ilya go to sleep. "After all, you have undergone special training and will have to retrieve your class cards later. It's better to sleep first," Wu Ming said. Because the virtual space set up by Wu Ming could control the time, it looked like Mei Yu and Ilya had trained for a few hours, but in fact they had trained for 3 times the time in the outside world. "Then, let's first prepare the things to deal with Assassin," Wu Ming said to Collis. "Yes, Master." The large-scale detection magic circle is beginning to be established. After answering, Collis began to emit light. Collis was establishing a mobile magic circle that could detect with her as the center. For Assassin, who had her aura blocked, even if she couldn't discover her accurately, she could still detect the general location. As for why they didn't prepare to deal with Berserker, it was because Wu Ming could create and could do. Although there was a time limit, Wu Ming's magic supply was enough to support killing Berserker. Soon, it was close to dawn. Wu Ming woke Mei Yu and Ilya up. After the two were awake for a moment, Wu Ming directly opened the teleportation door. Wu Ming brought the two to a forest outside Winterwood City. As soon as they walked out of the teleportation door, Wu Ming heard a complaint. Seriously, you guys are too slow. Did you calculate the time? Rindo Sokka said.
How rude of us to make the ladies wait, Luvia also said.
Well, even if we came early, we could only wait. Besides, Ilya and Meiyu have undergone a qualitative change. Wu Ming said with a smile. Is that so? To be able to be trained by you, I think Ilya and Meiyu shouldn't be weak now. Luvia said. Then, in the early morning, Collis, Ruby, and Sapphire activated the teleportation magic circle. In an instant, they disappeared from where they stood. World connection complete, Collis said. They appeared in the mirror world. Looking at the dark, empty forest, Rin Enbin said, No enemies? What's going on? Wu Ming frowned. Suddenly, Wu Ming pulled out his spear from the golden ripples and stabbed at Ilya. Ilya froze in place. It was obvious that she hadn't reacted yet. Wait! What are you doing? Rindo Sokka and Luvia exclaimed. Bam! Wu Ming's spear deflected a throwing knife and made a sound of metal colliding. The knife flashing with purple light fell to the ground. Wu Ming frowned and said, Poison? Then, Wu Ming swung his spear and looked around. He said to Ilya and the others, Be careful, it's assassin this time. Rindo Sokka and Luvia, who had just calmed down, panicked again. After all, an invisible enemy was the scariest. Meiyu patted Ilya's back and comforted her. Are you okay, Ilya? Ilya finally reacted and looked at the knife on the ground with lingering fear. She shook her head and said, I'm fine. Then, Ilya looked at Wu Ming, who was looking around with a serious expression. Big brother. After all, it was a class card incarnation without intelligence. Wearing black clothes and a skull mask, Assassin walked out of the forest. Wait, what's going on? Rindo Sokka couldn't help but shout. Assassins kept walking out of the forest, one after another. Clones? Wu Ming immediately determined the abnormality in the number of opponents. Wu Ming used his naked eye to estimate that there were about 50 of them. Wu Ming immediately let Collis detect. After detecting the abnormality in the opponent's magic power, Wu Ming said, Don't be afraid. The opponent is a physical clone. Although it's a clone, its strength has greatly decreased. Moreover, as long as we find the real one and kill it, the other clones will also disappear. At the same time, he also patted Ilya's head, who had lost her fighting spirit. It's okay, Ilya. I'm here. Okay. Ilya looked at Wu Ming and finally nodded heavily. At this moment, the assassins charged forward. Chapter 153. The moment the other party rushed forward, Wu Ming said a few words and rushed forward as well. Take care of yourself. Wu Ming dashed into the assassin group and started a massacre. None of them could withstand Wu Ming's attack. Wu Ming did not win in terms of strength but in terms of technique. Wu Ming, who did not have high stamina, attacked Assassin with a speed and technique that they could not react to. Rin Enbin and Luvia stood back to back with gems in their fingers as they fired at the assassin group that was surrounding them. Ilya flew into the sky. As Meiyu had returned the flight pendant, Meiyu was using her own method to stand in the sky. The two of them continued to fire magic bullets at the assassin group. The two of them had completed the special training, and the magic bullets that they fired were enough to destroy the assassin's clones in one hit. As time passed, the crowd noticed that the number of assassin group did not decrease. Wu Ming also noticed the problem. Therefore, Wu Ming asked Collis, Collis, can you detect which one is the real body of the enemy? 6 o'clock, 110 meters away. After hearing Collis's words, Wu Ming immediately looked at the 6 o'clock direction. There was a woman with long purple hair and a skull mask standing there. Wu Ming held a spear in his hand and activated his relic. Holy Yggdrasil! Wu Ming used his relic to activate Yggdrasil and charged towards the purple-haired woman with a spear that pierced through everything. The godly spear pierced through Assassin, and the sound of flesh being pierced through could be heard as it pierced through the ground. It was as if the pause button had been pressed as the other assassins stopped moving. The assassin that was pierced through by Wu Ming's relic turned into a card and the other assassin clones disappeared. Wu Ming extended his hand and Yggdrasil returned to his hand. Wu Ming walked up to the assassin card and picked it up. Then, Wu-Ming turned to the others. Let's go. Rin and Osaka and the others were dumbfounded. After leaving the mirror world, Wu-Ming still used the old method of rock paper scissors. In the end, Mei Yu defeated Ilya in 2 out of 3 rounds and obtained the right to keep this assassin card. Since there's only one card left, let's take a break, Wu-Ming said. Since Wu-Ming had taken back the more difficult saber and assassin cards, Wu-Ming still had some influence, so Rin Enbin and Luvia didn't say anything. After all, Zelik had given them 2 weeks, and 1 week had not passed yet. Actually, Wu-Ming had another idea for letting Mei Yu and Ilya rest. The mirror world would continue to shrink as the profession cards were taken back. Now that there was only 1 profession card left, its mirror world would definitely not be large. Most importantly, the last class card was a Berserker class card. Silent Wonder didn't have the confidence to bring Ilya and the others to retrieve the Berserker class card when even Saber's team could be wiped out. Even if Mei Yu and Ilya had accepted and completed the special training, Wu-Ming didn't dare to be careless. Moreover, Wu-Ming had a special feeling. It was like a natural enemy, just like the black mud that Julian used before. And the location of that special feeling happened to be the Berserker profession card's mirror world. Therefore, Wu-Ming decided to take back the profession card alone. After all, if Mei Yu and others knew that Wu-Ming wanted to take back the profession card by himself, not to mention Ilya, Mei Yu would definitely not agree. The next day, while Mei Yu and Ilya were going to school, Wu-Ming came to a building. Walking to the top of the building, Wu-Ming said to Collis while there was no one around, "Collis, try to connect to the mirror world." Yes. The mirror world was generally entered in the early morning because the channel to enter the mirror world at other times was unstable. Only in the early morning the channel was the most stable. Wu-Ming also entered the mirror world when Castor first appeared. Because it was in the middle of the night, the channel to the mirror world was only a little unstable, and it didn't affect him at all. But now it was daytime. It would be difficult to enter the mirror world. If it was Ilya and others, they might not be able to find the channel to enter the mirror world. However, if he let Collis, who was a full-time assistant, do this, then it would be a success. "Master, the channel is successfully connected, and the stability of the channel has been determined," Collis said. "Let's go in directly," Wu-Ming said. Yes. In an instant, a magic array appeared under Wu-Ming's feet. The magic array changed and finally emitted a light, wrapping Wu-Ming. In the mirror world of the Berserker profession card, Wu-Ming appeared on the top of the building. The mirror world during the day was different from the night. If you didn't look at the broken glass in the air and the boundary of the mirror world, you wouldn't think that it was the mirror world at all. Feeling the power of his natural enemy, Wu-Ming turned his head in an instant and looked at a corner of the building. He saw a big hand grabbing the corner of the roof of the building. Then, he saw the blue veins on the hand burst out, and a huge figure jumped up. Wu-Ming looked at the huge body in front of him. Messy black hair, a red right eye, and a golden left eye, but the 2 eyes were irrational. The skin was dark like iron, and the battle skirt only covered the crotch. The wrists and ankles had spiky bracelets and ankles. The ferocious face looked at Wu-Ming, and it was breathing heavily. This was undoubtedly the Berserker Hercules that Wu-Ming knew. However, the strangest thing was that the Berserker was surrounded by black mud. The black mud wrapped around the Berserker like a guardian and kept flowing. "This black mud with this face is really scary," Wu-Ming said. "BZZT BZZT BZZT." Berserker roared and charged at Wu-Ming. Wu-Ming waved his arm, and a golden ripple appeared behind him. A large number of silver chains appeared in the ripple and rushed to Berserker. The fake Enkidu created by Wu-Ming using the Create Green item could still contain Hercules with high divinity. However, a strange scene appeared. The fake Enkidu wrapped around Berserker's body, preventing him from moving. However, the surrounding black mud corroded the Enkidu. The fake Enkidu created by Wu-Ming broke, and Berserker regained his freedom and rushed to Wu-Ming again. Boom! Berserker swung his fist at Wu-Ming, but Wu-Ming nimbly jumped away, and the huge fist cracked the roof of the building. "This black mud is strange," Wu-Ming frowned and said. Logically speaking, even if the fake created by Wu-Ming had this attribute, it shouldn't be so fragile. The black mud was like hot water poured on ice, and it instantly corroded the Enkidu created by Wu-Ming. "This is troublesome,"
Wu Ming frowned and said. Chapter 154. The empty building was riddled with holes at this moment. From an architectural point of view, the building was no longer able to support itself, but for some unknown reason, it continued to remain standing. The color of the sky gradually turned orange-red, and the sun had set. Flagelak, sword of the war god. Berserker, whose body was red, fell to the ground with a thud. A ray of light pierced through his chest, leaving a big hole in his chest. Berserker turned into a card and fell to the ground. Wu Ming stood not far from Berserker and breathed a long sigh of relief. On the ground in front of him was a ruined stone ball that was emitting black smoke. Sure enough, facing the resurrected Berserker, backlight sword will determine that the opponent is using his trump card. Wu Ming said. Wu Ming and Berserker have been fighting for a whole day, from sending Mei Yu to school in the morning until the sun set. The building was almost destroyed. The reason why it didn't collapse was that Wu Ming constantly set up loon magic on the building when he was fighting with Berserker. That was why the building was not destroyed by Wu Ming and Berserker's attacks until now. What the hell is this black mud? Wu Ming looked at his right hand and said to himself. At this moment, a mass of black mud was floating on Wu Ming's right hand. The black mud was constantly surging. That was what Wu Ming extracted from Berserker when he was fighting with him. Speaking of Berserker, Wu Ming was very distressed. Because Berserker's body was wrapped in black mud, the Enkidu made by Wu Ming would be corroded by this special black mud. Coupled with Berserker's resurrection noble phantasm, it was really a headache. After Wu Ming killed Berserker's rank card user, he gave the rank card to Cullis for analysis. Naturally, he knew that Berserker had 12 lives, and he would be resistant to weapons or attacks that killed him. That was why Wu Ming said it was troublesome. Wu Ming did not try to use his noble phantasm to test the corrosion of the black mud. Instead, he used create great item to create some noble phantasm that could last for a while. Wu Ming used all the relics that he knew that could kill Berserker. This included Yggdrasil, Meteor Silver Meteor, Gibalg, Excalibur, Calidbalg, Aroundite, Excalibur, Calidbalg, Wu Ming's noble phantasm, Excalibur, Calidbalg, Aroundite, Excalibur, Excalibur, Calidbalg, Excalibur, 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 Calidbalg, Unbreakable Lake, Excalibur, 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 Excalibur Gallatin, and all the other noble phantasms that Wu Ming was familiar with, including Wu Ming's own noble phantasm, Heaven Age. Wu Ming made these fake noble phantasms. Although the noble phantasms would break after releasing them, there was no doubt that these noble phantasms consumed one of Berserker's life. In addition, Wu Ming used noble phantasms Enchanted God Seal and the Nameless Spellbook to kill Berserker 11 times. In the end, Wu Ming used the backlight sword, Flagelak, and successfully killed it 12 times. If it's Ilya and the others, they probably won't be able to defeat this monster. Wu Ming said. Of course, if there was no miracle. Wu Ming picked up Berserker's class card on the ground and said to Cullis, "Let's go, Cullis." "Yes, Master." Then, Wu Ming left the shattered mirror world. In the real world, Shuasuke's residence. Mei Yu and Ilya, who was worried about Wu Ming, sat together in the house with a worried expression. "Ilya, Mei Yu, what happened?" Rin Enbin and Luvia arrived at the entrance of Shuasuke's residence and shouted. "Ah, Sister Rin and Sister Luvia are here." Ilya immediately stood up and went to greet the two. As soon as we heard that something had happened, this monkey and I rushed over. What happened? Although Rin Enbin was a little angry at Luvia's way of addressing them, he endured it. "Yeah, what happened? Why did you call us over in such a hurry?" Rin Enbin said. "That big brother is missing," Ilya said worriedly. "Missing?" Rin Enbin and Luvia were confused. Although the two were curious about Wu Ming's whereabouts, they didn't think that he was in any danger. After all, Wu Ming was someone who could take Saber's attack head-on and even defeat her. "Anyway, don't worry. I believe that with Wu Ming's strength, he'll be fine." Rin Enbin comforted them. "That's right. Mei Yu, don't worry. Wu Ming must be delayed by something." Luvia also comforted Mei Yu. At this moment, Wu Ming walked into Shuasuke's residence. "Ha! Why is everyone here?" Wu Ming was confused. Then, Wu Ming saw that the sun was about to set and realized something.
Wuming and Berserker fought for an entire day. Not to mention that Mei Yu didn't see Wuming after school. Wuming only came back now. He had been missing for too long. Wuming wanted to say something apologetically, but Mei Yu's next action interrupted him. Mei Yu hugged Wuming tightly. Rin Enbin and Luvia didn't say anything. Ilya looked at Mei Yu worriedly.
Brother Wuming, don't leave me.
Mei Yu choked. Mei Yu had never cried before. Mei Yu had always been strong. This was the first time Wuming saw Mei Yu cry. Wuming's face softened. He looked at Mei Yu gently and patted Mei Yu's head. Sorry, Mei Yu, forgive me this time. I won't leave you. Then, no one said anything or did anything. They just quietly looked at the brother and sister. Soon, Mei Yu put away her emotions. Wuming and the others came to the living room and sat down. Wuming took out the Berserker class card and put it on the table. This is the Berserker class card. Rin Enbin and Luvia were confused. You entered the mirror world during the day? Wuming nodded. Collis has the ability to enter the mirror world during the day. I knew that Berserker wasn't someone you could deal with, so I entered Berserker's mirror world alone. Rin Enbin nodded in agreement. After all, Silent Wonder had admitted that he had fought with Berserker for an entire day. If Silent Wonder, who had easily defeated Saber, was troubled by Berserker, the result would be obvious if Rin Enbin and the others were to retrieve Berserker's class card.
Brother Wuming, are you hurt?
Mei Yu looked at Wuming cautiously. Wuming smiled and patted Mei Yu's head. Although the process was a bit difficult, I was not hurt. Besides, I am a servant. If I am injured, I can naturally recover by replenishing my mana. Brother Wuming, I will help Brother Wuming when he is injured, Mei Yu said firmly. Wuming was stunned for a moment, then he remembered that he didn't seem to have told Mei Yu how to replenish a magician's mana. I can do it too. I can also help Big Brother if he lacks mana. Rin Enbin and Luvia looked at Wuming as if they were looking at a scumbag. Scumbag, you won't even let go of a primary school student. Scumbag, you won't even let go of your own sister. Wuming helplessly touched his forehead and sighed. Please let me explain. Chapter 155. After Rin and Osaka and Luvia secretly told Ilya and Mei Yu about Magician's mana replenishment, the two little Lolas blushed like a monkey's butt. No. Brother Wuming, I didn't mean that. I didn't know. Mei Yu lowered her head and said to Wuming with smoke coming out of her head. I didn't mean that either. I didn't want to kiss Big Brother. Ilya was even more thorough and shouted with a red face. Everyone looked at Ilya in surprise, and she instantly lowered her head and stopped talking. Seeing Rin and Osaka and Luvia who were about to punch him, Wuming quickly changed the topic. Cuff. Currently, the 7 job grade cards have been collected, and there's something I have to tell you. Wuming pretended to be serious, but the effect was good, and the 4 of them returned to their previous expressions. Wuming picked up the Berserker job grade card on the table, and said to them, I have to leave for a while, and I need you to help me take care of Mei Yu in exchange for this job grade card. After all, Mei Yu was still a 10-year-old child in elementary school, and even if Mei Yu had the ability to take care of herself, Wuming was still worried. What? They were all confused. Ilya didn't understand why Wuming wanted to leave when all the job grade cards were collected. Mei Yu, on the other hand, couldn't accept Wuming's sudden departure. Rin and Osaka and Luvia looked at each other, and then asked, although you're the one who collected this job grade card, and you can make conditions, you have to tell us how long you're going to be away. After all, the Great Master only gave us 2 weeks, and there's about a week left. I'm not sure how long exactly, but I'll be back as soon as possible. As for the issue of time, I'll personally tell Zelik to extend the time for you to collect the job grade cards, Wuming said. Since he said so, Rin and Osaka and Luvia had no other choice. All right then. Rin Enbin and Luvia agreed. After that, Wuming handed the Berserker class card to the 2 of them. Rin and Osaka asked, you don't need to sign a compulsory essay contest? Self-compulsory essay was a magic contract that restricted both parties when there was an agreement between the magicians. After all, Wuming, Rin and Osaka, and Luvia had only known each other for less than a week. Logically speaking, every magician would have to sign a compulsory essay form before working with another magician. Wuming smiled. I believe you. Although Wu Ming hadn't known Rin Enbin and Luvia for long, he had inherited some of Skaha's ability to judge people. Rin Enbin and Luvia were both upright magicians, unlike the usual treacherous and sly people. In addition, with their relationship with Ilya, Mei Yu, and Mei Yu, Wu Ming didn't need to worry about leaving Rin Enbin and Mei Yu to them. Rin Enbin and Luvia exchanged glances and smiled. Then Luvia said, "In that case, let's let Mei Yu stay at my house. After all, a certain monkey doesn't have a place to live anymore." "Oh!" Luvia laughed like a queen again. Rin Enbin tried his best to suppress the urge to beat someone up. With a sad face he asked Mei Yu, "What do you think, Mei Yu?" "Okay." Mei Yu nodded. Actually, it didn't matter who took care of Mei Yu. It didn't matter at all. "Then let's do it this way," Wu Ming said. Then, Wu Ming looked at Mei Yu. "Mei Yu, Big Brother will only leave for a short while. It won't be long." "I know, Brother Wu Ming. I will wait for you to pick me up at Sister Luvia's house," Mei Yu said firmly. "Big Brother, I will also take care of Mei Yu. When you come back, Mei Yu will definitely be healthy." Ilya raised her small hand and said, "Ilya, I'm afraid you can't even take care of yourself, let alone take care of Mei Yu." Ruby ridiculed from the side. "Ruby, shut up." Ilya grabbed the Ruby with a red face. Looking at this pair of enemies, everyone laughed. At night, after eating dinner, Wu Ming sent off the others, including Mei Yu, who was about to move into Luvia's house. At this moment, the Shuoyu residence was already empty. Wu Ming moved his fingers a few times and set up a few boundaries. There were permanent boundaries such as idle person dispelling, automatic cleaning, and so on. Looking at the completed boundaries, Wu Ming nodded with satisfaction. "It's time to go." After saying that, Wu Ming's body transformed and turned into a class card. The class card Rutu could move on its own and flew out of the Shuoyu residence in a certain direction. In the Shape Moon world, inside the origin, a huge dragon silhouette was sleeping. After an unknown amount of time, Rutu's consciousness awakened. The huge dragon silhouette opened its eyes and its body began to move. As the dragon silhouette's body moved, the originally pitch-black dragon silhouette instantly glowed and revealed a pure and holy dragon body. Wu Ming felt extremely comfortable after Rutu's body was unlocked. So this is the true way of the origin dragon's growth? The huge white holy dragon muttered to itself. Wu Ming felt completely different from before and understood what he had to do next. Originally, Wu Ming wanted to use the two restraints of the Shape Moon world to search for the origin of the black mud. However, the two restraints told Wu Ming that the black mud came from the Shape Moon world's origin. It was a foreign substance that flowed into the Shape Moon world's origin from the inside of Wu Ming's origin. A unique kind of evil of this world that was created when it fused with the evil of this world. Even the two restraints couldn't figure out the origin of this substance. After knowing that his current exploration was fruitless, Wu Ming decided to go to other worlds to find the answer himself. Before that, Wu Ming also asked the two restraints to not take too long when he returned to Meio's world. For the two restraints who controlled countless parallel worlds of the Shape Moon, this was a simple matter. After everything was prepared, Wu Ming flew out of the origin and entered a space-time tunnel that connected countless dimensions. Wu Ming once again entered an unknown world. In a certain world, in a mysterious realm, a young girl looked at a certain place and said, "Ah, where's the special outer god?" In the outside world, in Italy, Sardinia, a ripple appeared in the air, and a huge white dragon shadow appeared. The dragon's ruby-like eyes looked at the sky, a bit confused. "I don't feel the existence of the origin. Is this a new world?" The origin that Wu Ming spoke of was a unique source of magic in the air of the Shape Moon world. In the gods' era, the origin provided most of the magic needed by magicians. Therefore, the magic of the gods' era was unmatched by modern magicians after the origin's disappearance. The world that Wu Ming came to was similar to the world that Wu Ming went to before, where the origin did not exist. Therefore, Wu Ming concluded that there was nothing unknown in this world. Wu Ming looked at the ground and found that he was in the air above a large island. At that moment, a strange phenomenon appeared. Chapter 156. Wu Ming's body emitted a golden energy that was visible to the naked eye, as if he was emitting energy involuntarily. The golden energy began to spread to the surroundings, and its speed was quite fast, and it instantly affected the Sardinian residents below Wu-Ming. Strange power, Wu-Ming said. Then, Wu-Ming turned into a human, with black hair and red eyes, and a white robe draped over his body. He floated in the air with the help of the flight necklace that he had been wearing. As soon as Wu-Ming returned to his human form, the golden aura that affected the residents of Sardinian instantly decreased a lot. Sure enough, after absorbing the power of Source, my dragon form will be suppressed when I turn into a human form. When Wu-Ming's consciousness returned to the source of the world, he obviously found the changes in his body. Not only did he have many strange abilities, but some abilities were also suppressed when he returned to his human form. However, this golden energy seems to be my holy aura mixed with some strange things in this world. Since it's still my own ability, then I can control it. With this thought, the golden energy disappeared. After resolving the panic caused by himself, Wu-Ming stretched out his hand and felt the magic in the air. Although there is no source, the magic in the air is not worse than the source in the world of the shape moon. Then, Wu-Ming looked at himself again. Because Wu-Ming's consciousness stayed in the state of Hyunryong for a long time, Wu-Ming was somewhat affected by the Uruk style. When Wu-Ming turned into his human form, he wore Uruk clothes. I haven't used my own body for a long time. I really miss it. My own body is still the best, Wu-Ming said. Although Wu-Ming was affected by his previous job, Wu-Ming was still himself after all, and he could still control these effects after returning to his own body. Moreover, because of the absorption of the power of Source, Wu-Ming overcame the defects of being the root dragon that could not be born in his hometown. At this moment, Wu-Ming could be considered a perfect creature. Although Wu-Ming was somewhat affected by this world after coming to this time, it did not affect Wu-Ming's foundation. It was as if the power of this world was guiding Wu-Ming's holy aura and strengthening it. But in essence, it was still Wu-Ming's power, which was why Wu-Ming was able to take back the golden energy. Wu-Ming then looked at the island below him. I have to figure out what this place is first, Wu-Ming said and flew to the ground. Somewhere in Sardinia, Wu-Ming was wearing casual clothes and walking on the street. After asking around, Wu-Ming found out that they were in Sardinia, Italy. Looks like this is also a hidden and mysterious world. Wu-Ming felt the existence of magic from certain places and people, but other than that, it was just like an ordinary world. Walking casually, Wu-Ming looked at the foreign streets. Suddenly, Wu-Ming saw a purple-haired young man, and the young man was also looking at Wu-Ming. Wu-Ming narrowed his eyes. He could feel that the young man in front of him had a huge amount of magic in his body, and he did not look like an ordinary magician at all. The young man smiled at Wu-Ming and then left. The other party's existence is somewhat similar to a servant, Wu-Ming judged. Then Wu-Ming shook his head. Sure enough, I have to find a magician to ask about the situation of this world. Then, Wu-Ming also walked in another direction. Suddenly, a pedestrian next to Wu-Ming asked Wu-Ming, "Sorry to disturb you." Wu-Ming turned to look at the person. Black hair, blue and white coat, black pants, a good-looking oriental face reflected in Wu-Ming's eyes. The other party was holding a slate in his hand, which was full of magic. Obviously, it was a magic book. Wu-Ming, who has rich knowledge, could clearly see that the other party was using Japanese English. After judging that the other party was Japanese, Wu-Ming directly asked in Japanese, "What's the matter?" The other party was obviously stunned for a moment, and then said in Japanese, "Great, I didn't expect Mr. Wu-Ming to speak Japanese. My name is Kusanagi Defender. I want to ask for directions." Wu-Ming immediately said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Kusanagi, I'm not a local. If you want to ask for directions, I can't help." Kusanagi Defender was stunned for a moment, and then said, "Ah, that's it. Then I'm sorry to disturb you. Goodbye." Goodbye. Wu-Ming and Kusanagi Defender returned the greeting to each other. Just when Wu-Ming was about to turn and leave, a female voice came. "You over there. Give me the magic book in your hand." Wu-Ming and Kusanagi Defender looked at the source of the voice at the same time. A beautiful woman was reflected in Wu-Ming's eyes. She had long blonde wavy hair, a red dress, white stockings, and red high heels. She held a knife in her hand and pointed it at Wu-Ming and Kusanagi Defender. "He's looking for you." Wu-Ming stopped his footsteps and said to the Kusanagi Protector Hall while standing still. "What? Looking for me?"
Kusanagi Defender said in a panic. My name is Erica. Erica Brantley. The one next to you is right. It's you, the one with the grimoire. The girl who called herself Erica was still pointing her knife at them. Wait, what magic book? I don't know what you're talking about. Kusanagi Defender was puzzled. At this moment, Wuming suddenly looked somewhere. Wuming's sudden turn also made Kusanagi Defender and Erica look in the same direction. A huge beast shadow arched up from the ground in an instant, and everything it touched was shattered. It was a huge red-eyed wild boar. That's a divine beast, Erica said with a frown. Then, Erica said to Wuming and Kusanagi Defender, hurry up and take shelter. With that, Erica dashed onto the roof of a car in one swift step. Yali Anna, Erica said to the maid who was driving the car in the car. Yes, Miss Erica. Yali Anna started the car in an instant, and ran with Erica toward the huge wild boar. What the hell is going on? The Kusanagi protector said to himself calmly. Wuming smiled, and then said, you don't need to know this, you'd better take shelter. After that, Wuming strode in the direction of the wild boar. Hey! Let's take shelter together. Kusanagi Defender said worriedly. Wuming was a little surprised. Wuming did not expect this guy to be so calm. You should go by yourself, I don't want to miss a guy who seems to know a lot of things. With that, Wuming suddenly jumped and moved toward the wild boar along the building. Kusanagi Defender could not believe his eyes, and rubbed them violently. Hee. I think I'd better take shelter. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.